Welcome to Flat Earth Debate, Uncut and After Show. I'm your host Nathan Oakley, and if you are new to this channel, or you've not done so already, then be sure to subscribe, hit the bell notification icon and join button if you'd like to become a Nathan Oakley 1980 channel member and keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. If you would like to support the channel, there is a super chat that runs alongside each of these shows while they premiere. There's also a PayPal, Patreon, and crypto link in the info box below the video. Speaking of Patreon, I'm going to do a quick shout out to all of you who do support me on Patreon. So, a massive shout out of thanks and appreciation to Malby Styles, Troy Shuker, Bose Nail, Joseph Pizarro, Samson, Maris, Mobile Max 777, Neo the One, Lost Cat FE, Rob W, Open Minded, Reese Pound, Del West Watson, Mike, Muted, Dick Earth Skeptic, NA Literalist, Maria Neelands, Unbelievable Productions, Blue Ridge Ranger, Rob H, The Real Gabster, Windrider, Liam Nedrick, it's now Liam Nedrick Jr., Abraham Mohammed, Naibai, Adrian Quintana, Skeptic936, Life is Short, Fireball X, TheFlatEarthChannel.com, Texas Mike, Edwin Johnson, Kirsten Smith, and David Wayne Foster. So a huge, massive, enormous thank you to all of you for supporting me on Patreon. Also, link below this video is a link to get £50 for swapping your UK electricity supplier to Octopus Energy. With that, I'm going to hand over to whoever is in Discord and Google so you can enjoy their conversation while I set up for today's live show.
Did that interaction with Rumpus happen last night, Nathan?
Do you mean the clip? No.
No.
Not necessarily. So the clip that's on the Uncut and After show that's going to be released tonight, 9 PM UK, yes, that did happen last night because I immediately trimmed out the section to put it as a trailer for the Uncut and After show, which is how I do it. So I do a quick and dirty edit, I won't tell you how, but rough and ready, very low res, get it boshed out, and then put it attached as a trailer to the latest Uncut and After show, if I'm going to do one. If not, I'll just use an old trailer that I've already made. But then, as I've used them, I've then looked at them and gone, actually, that's quite a nice little clip. So I've put them out, and I put one out last night. So it could be that yes, it could be that no, depending on which trailer you've seen.
No, because I was just trying to find you, and I didn't know how to get in touch with you, and Mark's been good enough to help me out there, but yeah, I just saw that, so smashed him. It's good.
What was the subject? And then I'll be able to tell you if it was last night or an old trailer just released.
No, you were talking about converging rays and reality, and you're just yelling at him to look at reality and the sun and not get his diagram.
Right, that's from 1 week ago.
Right.
Underneath the video, so when I release them, when I do a quick and dirty edit, the bare minimum information I put in that would be useful if I came back to it later, which is normally underneath it will just say taken from FED 1650. I think that was from. In fact, I'm pretty certain as I only released it last night. 1650 is the original video. So at the bare minimum, You can go and find the debate that it was taken from.
Yeah. What's on the? Have you got anything on the cards today, or do you just sort of wing it and see what happens?
What do you mean on the cards? Format's the same every day.
Something you just want to hone in on, or if you got a sort of, like just a basic format of what you want to focus on today, or are you just going to let it roll?
Like 10th Man just said, it's the housekeeping questions every day. That's always going to be our focus. That's what we're focused on. That's why they're asked every show.
Now I'll just sit tight. I brought something to Jem's room. Maybe I could talk to you and QE even about it in private one day.
What is it?
Yeah.
Is it something personal or
just,
something on the topic?
Yeah, just something about the sun's gravitational field being
okay,
very strong.
What's gravity?
Yeah, but just the strength of it. And I've been looking into it.
Yeah, it.
For a while.
What?
It is gravity,
Strength
right? What's that?
No, I'm saying the gravitational field is too strong. And with the sun in the center of the solar system, it kind of defies logic and physics that it wouldn't pull the other planets into it.
Okay. I get what you're saying. You're just not peppering it with the usual disclaimers that I insist on here, and that's not your fault. So, in the heliocentric world of spinning ball assumed with radii, yeah, you're just not giving the disclaimers.
Yeah.
It's fine. I'm being a bit mean. You shouldn't be expected to, but that's just where we are, right? So yeah, you're framing it within there, begging the question fallacy that we're on a sphere flying through space with the sun-centric system and the Earth falling around the sun. You're saying the gravitational attraction of the sun is, what do you say, too much or too little? I forget which now. Sorry.
Too strong.
Too strong.
Too strong.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, it's not my claim; it's their claim. But I brought it to Gems, and I was, asking them to sort of unpack it with me, and we got there in the end. Brummy joined as well, but it was interesting, and that's what Brummy said to me as well, that I'm not formulating the argument properly, but maybe I'm just not doing it in the way you do it. So that's why I thought I'd bring it to you and see what you thought.
Well, you're going to hate me now because I'm going to say I'm not the one to do that, because I hate doing that. I hate operating within their begging the question fallacy. Just point out where it's not real. For a start, we're not in orbit. We're not in orbits. That's an assumption that they're not validating in any way. They just assume it. And when you say, well, in the model, when we're falling around the sun, it's like, well, why are we falling around the sun suddenly? Why are we assuming this? But that's all they've got in that regard. So I'd be hesitant to base my argument within their begging the question fallacy and dissect how their maths within this conceptual medium of space works. I'd be like, so, the guys that you discussed already, they're probably better to do it because they love working within the begging the question fallacy. Me, I hate it.
Yeah, it's almost like the inside out perspective. Like you've stepped outside of heliocentrism, and then you've got your feet firmly planted in reality, and then you more dissecting it as a concept. And I always applaud you for that. But when you're in there with them, it's the complete inversion of that. You're inside heliocentrism, and they're justifying it everywhere they can. So.
Yeah, what you're saying is something Nathan has said in the past, which is they want to know how the gas lamps work in Narnia.
Yep, exactly. You're discussing how the gas lamp works in Narnia, how the time dilation works as you move through the wardrobe. That's what you're debating about when you discuss these subjects. It's like, hang on, none of this is real. Why are we assuming there's a Narnia and a wardrobe that you can go through? Why are we dissecting the physics of the wardrobe and the gas lamp and the time dilation? None of this is real. So we don't need to dissect their fantasies. Just point out that they're fantasies and where they make their assumptions to come to their fantasies, where they're models and reifications thereof. Point those out. That's what I do. So I'm not very helpful to you. I'm really sorry.
No, you are. I needed. That's why I came in. I knew it doesn't require much, and I appreciate your time and your thoughts. Good stuff. I'll just if you don't mind, like if I'm here, I'll just keep quiet, but just listen. And I'm not here to troll or,
I don't think you were. We know each other, man. Don't worry about it.
Yeah, it's all good. I sort of feel sometimes that like there's these different camps, but quietly there's a lot of people who respect what you've done for years, Nathan, and you don't always hear that.
So. You're the third person to say that in the space of a month. Do you know that? I don't
really?
know why suddenly I'm getting all this kudos and respect and people appreciate me. I don't know why I'm being told this, but you're the third person. I normally would just say thank you, but it's become noteworthy. Well, thanks all the same.
You're welcome. It's a marathon. It's stamina. You smash them all the time.
See, I don't see it that way. This is easy, right? I don't know if 10th Man will back me up on this, right? I don't lose any sleep. I don't concern myself with the trolls anymore. It's water off the duck's back. So they're the ones losing sleep, not me.
Yep. I don't have two thoughts that violate each other in my mind when I go to bed.
Exactly.
That just gets aggravating.
No, I don't even get aggravated because that's on them.
No, I mean when you're in it. When you go to sleep, nice, comfy, no worries. But when you argue with a guy like Danik, if Nathan took him through the mill, how many times? Uncountable. Infinite. It's a
No,
little
that's like a cat playing with a toy for a flat earther, because the flat earther has to set him straight.
Now it is. Back in the day, maybe not. I'm not going to pretend for
Yeah,
one
it's
moment
like
it's not been a stressful journey. It has, for all of us, without
No, I'm
Well,
exception.
when
saying you
pe-
can set them straight. It's like when you set them straight. Like when you rebuke, right? You
Yeah.
set them straight, and it's like a doctor putting a cast on a guy, and he just takes the cast off and walks around with a broken arm.
That's a good analogy.
well, that's an interesting twist of the arm there, Neil. Well, when they go around saying level is curved, it's over right there. You know what you're dealing with at that point.
Broken arm. There you go.
Yeah, so if you show a
That's
little,
broken arm syndrome.
yes, that's fine. But you're going to change the meanings of words and think you win the debate because you just changed the meaning. That's ludicrous.
And then when I say that, Nathan took you through this, I gotta take you through it now because Nathan's not right. Nathan's incorrect. You just follow him. He's our priest.
But just to speak to 10th Man's point, yeah, we don't go to sleep with cognitive dissonance. They do.
Indeed.
Merlin's disappeared. I think he got his answer and was happy with it. He's gone, right, I'm going to get on with my day then.
I mean, I know there's people who like to go to, like I said, I've been to Jam Panda show one time, didn't care for it. I don't even know if I went on it. I think I was listening to someone who was on it on their channel after it was recorded. I don't go to Jose's. I went there at the beginning once or twice, just loony panel, loony topics. I don't even try to debate ballers. It's this show because of the housekeeping questions and the focus on physics and just narrowing and getting the arguments finer. And if someone pops in here, that's a different story. But who has time to go debate these people? I don't.
The debating bit's second nature now. It's been it for a very long time. So just becomes second nature.
Yeah, but yeah, I don't. Well, there's so many other things you can do with your day than to, as Neil said, keep talking about the same thing that's been settled already. Uh, the fallacies are on one side, the contradictions are on one side. We haven't changed our story. Housekeeping questions are the same. No one's rebutted them. I mean, what more can you ask for?
Well, my focus is on totally different things. You know, when people ask me this question, I don't know if they get shocked by my answer, but I'm like, I'm a YouTuber first and foremost. So what's my primary focus? Well, producing a good show. So I'm very concerned with the acoustics, so I can hear people that are talking to me, and obviously that benefits my reproduction through my mic. I'm interested in how the appearance of the show looks when you're doing presentations. I'm very much concentrating on how it looks, how it's framed, that it's clear, that it's visible, that there's not bits of text cut off. You know, that all takes a tremendous amount of effort. This morning before the show started, you and Righteous were discussing how are we talking to each other. It's like, well, that's the biggest part of the show, having 3 different sections all linked perfectly without any feedback, unless it's internal feedback from a particular guest, like 10th Man's causing right now. You know, and other than those supplementary things I have no control over, because people don't mute when I'm talking, I try and keep it as clear and as consistent as possible so that people can hear what's being said. And that takes a huge amount of effort in terms of production. That's the stressful bit, running the show. Because it's easy to stick the show on and just let it descend into chaos and broadcast it. That's dead easy.
Man, your mic is good because all I did was flip my book and a few pages turned.
Not my
You
mic,
picked
that's
up
your
on
mic
it.
that's good. It's sensitive, it's picking it up and you can hear it. I intentionally
My
left
good.
that line open to make the point. Like now, I will close it now so we don't hear your annoying noises in the background while I'm in the middle of a sentence. But anyway, yeah, those sorts of production details, they take a lot of effort to keep an eye on. And to be able to debate, you've got to be able to have the debate and arguments in the back of your mind so they're second nature, so you can keep an eye on everything else. And that was the hardest part to learn. So initially, you're trying to keep an eye on the discussion other people are having and run the show smoothly. That was stressful in and of itself when you had people trolling the show and capable of gaining access through a forum that was less secure as Discord. Well, all those things had to be learnt over time, but they're all production. None of this is about the debate, right? That all evolved as a natural progression that we all learn. Now it's second nature after the period of learning.
Yeah, my mic is a cheap earbud with a quarter jack that goes to the iPad. I can't believe it's that good, especially after hearing
it's
all
close
you
to
guys
your.
talk about Yetis and
It's
everything.
not that. It's close to your person, so you're moving it. If it was on the desk static, you could move around or flick the page away from the position the mic's pointing at, and it wouldn't matter. But because it's attached to you, everything you do, it's going to pick up.
Yeah, so that's the problem with me putting my feet up and taking notes and talking to you, whereas you hear everything.
That's fine if you're the one talking.
Oh, that's too much, man.
But that's the nature of the beast. I mean, this is the type of show it's going to be. I can't expect. And initially, I was really annoyed with people that would, cause background noise, cause feedback. It got really annoying because, obviously, like I say, I'm first and foremost a YouTuber. I want to produce a good show. And that used to really annoy me. Now it's like, that is the nature of the show. That is how it is. I can't expect every single panelist to go out and buy a good mic. That's never going to be the case. And to expect that would be to expect a different show. So it's like, you've got to deal with what you've got and try and retain as much control over it as you can. Or, moreover, hear what's bad. That's why I treated my room. So I could hear what's coming through and when it's bad.
Yeah.
Because then you can do stuff about it. I've applied compressors, limiters, various other different plugins that have adjusted the audio for the better. Now, it's not improving things, it's just making them less bad. You can't improve on people's shitty mics, you just can't. But what you can do is prevent the shittiness to a certain extent if you can hear it. And, that's been expensive to achieve. It's like, well, it's because I take it seriously. I do genuinely want the subject matter, which is my second passion in this regard. Obviously, I couldn't have a good show if I wasn't passionate about the subject. That would come over immediately and I would watch. So obviously my passion for the subject comes across. But my passion for the subject on my channel when producing my show is why it's a good, I hope, a good package to present to people while I get recommended to nobody by YouTube.
Hello.
Again, Neil?
Hello.
Hello? It wasn't Neil.
I'm just saying hi. I had to bring my wife to doctor COVID. She's going getting some checkups and stuff. But walking out of the house today, she don't waste me, my wife. I'm telling her, hold on a second, because we got to step down. And I see it's like clear as anything, like a thin layer of ice. As I'm saying, wait, she's stepping down and feet right out from under her, bang, down for the count. Now, if that was me, she would have been hysterical laughing. But she went down hard and she couldn't get up.
I hate that. Descriptions like that.
Just wait for me, though. She don't wait. I know what's going on. I've been living there 10 years. I know everything that's going on. My wife is always, because she thinks we're late. We're not late. I don't consider myself late if I get somewhere 8:32 and it's an 8:30 appointment. I know technically I'm late, but I don't consider that late.
Have you ever heard of synesthesia?
What's that?
Synesthesia. You ever heard of it?
What's that? No.
I came across this because of something I experienced when watching certain types of videos, and from a very early age I remember it most vividly with a show called Faulty Towers, and more with a show called Some Mothers Do Have 'Em. May not be familiar with both British shows. Anyway, they're slapstick humour where people get hurt, right? And every time I watched it, I would feel pain when they were getting hurt. I know it's slapstick. I studied it at college, but it didn't matter. I felt the pain. Now, moreover, in more recent years, if you watch, say, a video of a skateboarder and they go down a rail and get it wrong and land with the rail between their legs or something, I feel that. I feel the pain. In other words, I wince and feel pain when I see those things. So I'm like, what the hell is this? So I looked it up. And it's actually a thing called synesthesia, where your empathy for the pain you're watching causes you to experience the pain. So, yeah, when you were describing your wife falling, I felt the pain, literally, in my coccyx bone, in my ass. Felt it, like I just hit the deck on a big bit of concrete after slipping on ice, which I've done, I'm sure many people have. But I felt it when you're describing it. It's horrible.
So that means you're not a
She was
Stooges
that
fan
hard,
then.
but she would have cracked up at me.
I wouldn't. I'd have winced in pain and sympathy. What did you say, Righteous? Sorry, I didn't catch that.
I said, so that means you're not a Three Stooges fan.
I don't
I was
like
just gonna
slapstick.
say
No,
the Three
no, not at all.
Stooges.
No.
Be careful,
Is
Mo.
it
You're
just
gonna break
humans?
the hammer.
Yeah, Simpsons, same thing. So you imagine Simpsons seeing Homer. It's a cartoon, right? When he smacks himself in the eye with a hammer, I would wince. You know what I mean?
Oh my god.
What about the
Roadrunner and
cartoons when they
Wile E.
hit themselves
Coyote?
with a
Is it
hammer on
no,
it?
no, right?
There are limits. No, Roadrunner, no. Anyway,
What
don't get me
about
wrong. I'm
when
not a
they hit that-
synesthesia expert. I just looked it up because I was interested to know why I had these sensations. So I looked it up.
That is interesting.
What about in the cartoon when they hit their thumb with the hammer and you see the thumb swelling? Boom, boom, boom.
Yeah, I can only give you as an example with The Simpsons. Yes, I can give you a specific example when he smacks himself in the eye with a hammer when he's trying to tile the roof. Yeah. But no, you describe Wile E. Coyote or something with a giant swelling whatever, and I'd say no. I don't think so anyway. I didn't like Tom and Jerry. There you go. There's another one from very early childhood. I never liked Tom and Jerry for the same reason.
Yeah, I don't like Tom and Jerry either, but not to change the subject. I started watching The Mandalorian. Outstanding. I finally am able to watch a movie where I know everything gets freaking fake, but I got into it.
Mandalorian Star Wars, right?
Yeah.
Okay. No, good for you. I mean, that's good in a way. So I've given this an example before, but early in my journey, I discussed this exact subject with a guy called Insanity is Sanity. Amir, his name is. His channel's called Insanity is Sanity. He still does videos. And he was telling me about getting a Star Wars game and saying, in the same way as I would be like, oh, I'm indifferent to the subject. It's not like it fusses me or makes me uncomfortable. Far from it. And he was the same when he was saying, well, I'm playing this game and I'm enjoying it. I know what's real and what isn't in the game, but it doesn't mean I can't, and he didn't use these words, but I'm going to use them on his behalf. He could still suspend disbelief. He could still immerse himself in it as a reality that he has suspended disbelief about. Like a good play or a good TV show, where you forget that they're actors. You suspend disbelief. Well, if you are in a paradigm where part of the belief you're suspending is actually part of your reality, you are unconsciously suspending disbelief. For instance, the picture on screen now. Now, part of it, for globe believers, is part of their reality. There's a sphere there with a man floating in space. Happens to be me, CGI'd into the image. But it's partially, oh, well, it's obviously fake. It's Nathan in a spacesuit. Well, yeah, but the other bit, you haven't realised that you're suspending disbelief about. There's a sphere edge, a space, men floating and flying in it, like Superman. You know, that bit you don't realise you're suspending disbelief about. Now, when you realise it's all a lie, that doesn't necessarily mean that you can't go back to those things and suspend disbelief. For me, personally, unlike Amir and you in this example with The Mandalorian, I can't. There's many things, many films that I go back to and just, I can't suspend disbelief. I can't get into the narrative anymore. It's very, very difficult because you go, well, no, this spaceship that's come into this scene now in Avengers or whatever the hell it is you're watching, you're like, just no, I can't. It suddenly makes the plot unbelievable to me.
Yeah, I'm the same way. And especially if you listen to the dialogue, this one lady starts describing a planet. She calls it the gas giant next to whatever. I'm like, oh God, this sounds so fake. But I'm gonna watch it because kicks ass.
Been meaning to bring this up for a while, but I didn't want it to be the only thing that was brought up in the subject context because it's a subject I'm passionate about. But in shows gone by, I've discussed how I'll pick a subject matter on YouTube because it's not related to the thing I do for a living, i.e. flat earth. So it's, escapism, like anybody watching a drama on TV. They're not watching it because they're necessarily working in an emergency room. It's just a bit of escapism. So you can intentionally suspend disbelief, look at something that's sometimes outside your comfort zone, but something different. And so many times I'll be watching something. I'll give the example now with Engineering Explained. I like cars, watch car videos, obviously not related. And then your car video making YouTuber makes a video about how he doesn't think the earth is flat and why. You're like, oh, God damn. You know what I mean? How is this leaked into it? Now, don't get me wrong, I spin it on the show and go, well, that's good, right? It's leaking into pop culture and everyone's talking about it. That's good, right? Yeah, but I'm watching a video about cars at that particular moment. Anyway, I also like hi-fi. I used to work in an industry that sold equipment to regular Joe Normie on the street in hi-fi dealers. I also sold to studios and more posh affairs, but overall, I've still worked with hi-fi, high-fidelity audio, domestic audio. And I watched some hi-fi videos. And the other day, a guy called... I'm not going to name and shame him. This is after a lot of ponderance. I thought, no, I'm not going to name and shame him, even though that's what I said I'd do in his comment section. Right? A guy's talking about cables. A lot of voodoo is in hi-fi about cables, and it's something I find objectionable, as do a lot of other people, because of the smoke and mirrors. And on the other hand, it's a way they make profit in that industry, and there's very little news, so you've got to make profit somehow, and I understand it all. So fine, whatever, I'll leave it alone. But this particular guy had been sent a Earth is not flat t-shirt. Earth is not flat, we've checked. Whoever makes that t-shirt, I don't know, but somebody has bought from an anti-flat earther shop. One of the YouTubers, presumably, has got a shirt out that says that. And they've bought it for this guy and posted it to him. Now, the guy clearly doesn't really know the subject. He's like, I don't really get this. But by the same token, I know it's a sphere, right? So why not? Let's go with it. I'll put it on, and thank you very much for sending me the shirt. And, I'll now make a comparison between people who think cables don't make a difference and flat earthers. So the people who poo-poo the voodoo in cables, they're flat earthers. And I'm going to show you why. Now it's like, bloody hellfire. Why is this leaked? Why is this poison made its way into something else? Yet some other passion that I've got that's nothing to do with the subject I cover, ruining my day.
It's everywhere. It really
Wait,
is.
Did you straighten him out?
Pardon?
Did you straighten him out?
I know what you're saying. Say it. One of my ears is a bit messed up.
Did you straighten him out?
I don't want to straighten him out. So, like I said, this is after a lot of ponderance. The guy's just some normie.
No, Nathan, you failed.
I could.
Come on, Neil.
Okay, you want to know the truth? I actually took the video, edited it, got it on my iPad as a semi-edited video with him. I also did background research on the topic actually being discussed, which was cables, and went and found a different reference for somebody who'd got actual data with measurements to make my point about his point about cables. Now, I was gonna, or I intended to, I didn't get to this stage, pepper it with flat earth for obvious reasons, which is what you're criticising me about, Neil. Now, when I began that section of the editing, I stopped and went, why, number one, do I want to get between this man and his meal, right? He's a guy who makes crossovers. I doubt there's very much money in making crossovers. But you need the smoke and mirrors voodoo cables to make a bit of profit. I know it. I've worked in the industry. Why do I want to get between this guy and his meal? He's not really doing anything in significant importance in terms of debunking our arguments. He's just putting a shirt on that someone sent him. So if I could get to the root of who sent it, would I care when I got there? Is it that big a deal to me that some anti-flat earther sharing his pain with a hi-fi YouTuber? Not really. So why do I want to do that? It's like, well, actually, I don't. So I stopped. I'm not going to do this. I'll leave it a few days. I'll ponder the subject. And when something similar comes up, I'll bring up the subject. Now, that's why I've led in with this, because I'm going to talk about someone who I do like and sort of link it in that fashion, because I'm semi-proactively thinking about contacting them. Now, this is a panel of people called the Behaviour Panel. And they're a team of, what would you call them? Behavioural psychologists. They don't call themselves that. I've forgotten what title they give them. But they do things like train the military in what's the word? Interrogation. And also train them in anti-interrogation, resistance to interrogation. They train the police. One of the guys trains actors and trains world leaders, interestingly enough. Both actors and world leaders. Anyway, these 4 guys, and occasionally they have other panel members that join them, basically pull apart things like depositions, TV interviews from convicted murderers, people who are on the hook but aren't yet convicted, or, one example that's a bit more pop culture, they pulled apart the apology videos from people like PewDiePie and basically study their body language and pull apart what they see. What I love about them more than anything else...
Body language.
Yeah, body language. What I love about them, and they've proved this consistently throughout every video I've watched so far, I've watched about a dozen, they say and are unbiased. In other words, they're not in the slightest bit concerned with whether or not the person they're analysing has or hasn't done the crime, and they very rarely even skirt that close to the issue of whether or not they've done it. They will when it's obvious they're being directly asked the question, for example. They have to. But they're not. It's clear that they're not biased to try and convince you, the audience, one way or the other. Now, the reason I thought, these guys are interesting in our arena is because they had a couple of people who were talking about UFOs. So they're talking about UFOs and they're pulling apart whether or not these people are lying. And in one instance, they're saying, yeah, this person's just making it up. they've just got this story and they're spinning it. In another example, they got the person that had been on Netflix, a documentary about UFO encounters, and they wanted them on the show because it was one of the rare examples that are like, this person is either more capable than the best actor that we have, or they're just telling the truth. And their story, and there's nothing about them being deceptive at all. I'd love to talk to them about it further, mainly because their behaviour is not akin to most of the people who are under scrutiny that we scrutinise. So they put him under the knife, this man and his mother, in this particular example, and just chatted to him. Now they made it clear at the beginning that the way we're chatting to him is basically an interrogation. We are going to interrogate these claimants, and that's precisely what they did. But at the end of it, get to my point, the woman, the mother, is explaining that it made her, based on her experience of these UFOs that surrounded her and then their memories disappearing, to give you a vague insight to what they were discussing, made her think that there was more to the world, but her justification went on to the vastness of the universe and the planets that were being discovered daily. Now, when I heard that, it was a minor point, and, she's a normie, so it wasn't like I'm going to start attacking her. But she said it with the same sincerity as she said everything else, which was what inspired me to leave a comment saying, look, like the guy who's here, the son, he's had this bottled up and doesn't want to be perceived as a liar. And now, for some reason or another, people like Netflix are normalising the subject, and there's certain, even judges, he was getting into senators and people that were backing him, that are supporting him in his narrative. But his narrative, according to the Behaviour Panel, is true, as was his mother's. Now, they've encountered a light and then lost a big chunk of time, and then come to in a car in different positions in the car with it turned off rather than on and things like that. But their story was true, and there was very little interjection beyond what they actually experienced. But a little bit of spin came in that, well, that means that we're in a heliocentric universe and that there's aliens. Even they did hint at it because that's what the narrative Netflix had hinted at. So they had to ask those questions. But they weren't biased. They didn't seem to care if this person was a kook who believed in aliens and was lying about it, or whether or not they'd actually experienced it. They didn't care. They just wanted to analyse whether or not they were being truthful in what they told. And they were. Didn't matter if they were talking about the extrapolation they made when pushed to say, well, what does this mean? What are your interpretations of it? They were like, well, it means there's a big universe out there, right? Like, no, not necessarily. You don't know where they've come from, certainly not from a sky vacuum. But that was what they said when pushed. And I said, well, I get called a liar on a daily basis. I know the Earth is obviously and observably and measurably flat. But I still get called a fraud and a charlatan, just like the alien claimant in this example. So they're the kind of thing that I might get in touch with them and say, look, be a bit bold and say, I'm an interesting subject for you because I'm considered a liar by the majority of the Western world, and I get called so daily. Feel free to analyze me for deceit.
Well, Nathan, did you hear what Brian said the other day? He said we're like a small group, like a special forces. And you're the
Special
like
forces.
general.
Indeed.
No, he's our handler. We are the special operation units.
That was David Weiss.
Yeah, you missed. I took my
No,
joke.
he's the
Like a,
banker connection. We still need like backdrop financial sources to remain stable.
welcome to Flat Earth Debate Live. I'm your host, Nathan Oakley, and if you are new to this channel, or you've not done so already, then be sure to subscribe, hit the bell notification icon and join button to keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. If you would like to support the channel, there is a super chat that runs alongside each of these shows while they are live. There's also a PayPal, Patreon and crypto link in the info box below the video. Also below this video, there is a link to get £50 for swapping your UK electricity supplier to Octopus Energy. Most importantly, if you'd like to join the discussion, simply mute the page you are currently watching, then click the link in the info box below this video to join the panel and express your views on the nature of Earth. If you do join, please don't swear. If you do, you'll be ejected, and if you are, please don't try to rejoin the stream using sock accounts. You'll be warmly welcome back on the next stream. Please also share the show on social media. Sharing the show obviously increases the live audience, but this in turn increases the chances of a more diverse panel, so please share the show on Facebook and Twitter. One last time, if you're new to the channel or you've not done so already, then be sure to subscribe, hit the bell notification icon and join button to keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. Now, we are joined by Brian, Arwin, 10th Man, Neil, and a whole bunch of people in Discord. Get there in the end. Welcome, one and all.
Hey,
Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, wherever you are.
Good morning.
Me.
Hello, everyone.
Ace had a hello from Discord without being prompted. Just what I love. Any evidence of a physical, geometric, sphere edge, that's a horizon formerly known as Earth curvature, used to block boats and buildings and stuff.
I think it's still known as Earth curvature, though, even though they've never claimed it.
Even though no one's claiming the horizon's Earth curve.
That's a negative.
What?
There you go,
I
Neil.
said
You're
that's
very
a negative,
distant.
General Oakley.
Hey, Sleeping Warrior.
Hey.
Good to have you. Any evidence of axial rotation of the Earth-based variety?
No, but we can calculate it into existence, and then you can think that there's axial rotation.
It's not a phenomena
you
unless it's an
calculate
observed phenomena.
How do you calculate something into existence?
You don't. It's called reification.
They do it with gas pressure as well. I was watching the Adam Meakin conversation yesterday with the rumpus, and PV equals nRT, focusing on the word, the letter V, volume. Rumpus doesn't like talking about that. He likes talking about something that's he wants to major on a minor point and completely miss the major point. So yesterday's show was really good.
Well, wasn't he saying velocity too?
Yeah, he was trying to confuse people. That's his namesake, though, isn't it?
Oh, he was doing it
Disruption.
deliberately. Okay.
Of course. You just joined. Chocolate, hello. How you doing?
Good morning, everybody.
Good
Hey,
morning.
What's up?
Sun, any evidence thereof? Distance to the sun?
Got chocolate in the morning? Is that what I heard?
That's a negative. That's a negative, General.
Don't call me general.
No, No distance to the sun.
That's a negative, Commander.
Brigadier, at the very least.
I'm detecting a bit of a theme today.
What's that theme that you're detecting?
Neil's referencing everybody in the military style. I'm detecting a bit of a theme.
What do you mean,
Is he-
Corporal?
I think you'll find that would be private.
I'm
Boom,
offended.
boom. Boom, boom is right. Nice one there. Get back to boot camp. No distance to the sun.
Hold on. Let's just push that a little bit further. Sleeping Warrior is pointing out that there's a bit of a theme going on from you, Neil, in terms of your referencing military stuff. What gives? What's the point? I don't get it. If Sleeping
Well,
Warrior does, or
Brian
you...
said the other day that flat earthers are a small group of like special forces, and I agree. And I think there should be a rank. Got to decide who's, is it Nathan, QE, Sleeping Warrior? How does it go? Like, there's got to be a ranking.
So I'm a lowly private. I'm
No,
offended.
not at all.
I put you up there.
I don't
No,
want any
Nathan
part of
dropped
this. I'm not interested.
It's okay, Anthony.
I'm not
Generally
anybody's
speaking, you
leader.
were
I'm not the
commander.
boss of anybody, right? Nobody's here under duress. So nobody's the boss of anybody in this scenario. We're all on our own journey. Hey, Adam.
Afternoon, guys. Afternoon, Supreme Leader.
Here's the Admiral.
Supreme Leader.
Hey, Adam, I started watching The Mandalorian. You're right. It's great, man.
Damn. Not going to be any more. They kicked Gina out, but
Okie
She couldn't
dokie.
keep her mouth shut. My cousin who's into the film industry, he told me she was warned a lot of times to just keep your opinions to yourself. Couldn't do it.
She's a fighter. Don't forget.
You want to add something? Percent? Or was that Syn Cleanser? Oh, it's good. Okay.
What does that mean?
Good hits, Light. I'll just put you on normal mute so you can unmute yourself when you figure out that you're making a load of disturbance. So, distance to the sun? No, nothing?
9.
Any evidence of the R value? Earth radius?
No, again, see, that's another one of those things that you like. Like they assume they also assume gravitational field. I realized that, like, when they were talking about what was the example now, there was a really good conversation where they were talking about, it was to do with Einstein and Newton, right? Newton's apple, like, falls from the tree, hits Newton on the head. He wonders what causes that, and he doesn't want attributing to him a force. But 100 years after he dies, C.V. Boyes and Cavendish did exactly that. And then from there on, we have the heliocentric model. Einstein obviously says the opposite is the case. He says that the Earth moves up, not the apple moving down. And obviously, we don't care which way around it is. We just want to point out that both of them are reifying the observation with mathematics. They're calculating the effect. But none of them decided to manipulate the presumed cause. So ultimately, you're left with a reification because they apply mathematics only to it, and it's not based on experiment. So fundamentally, it's flawed because they're just calculating the effect and they're attributing it to like Mickey Mouse stuff. So we know what we can demonstrate is the cause, and we don't reify it with mathematics. We demonstrate it with experiment, and we know the reason why things accelerate. So it's like we've gone one step further than both Newton and Einstein, and then we did the maths to it afterwards, because maths isn't part of scientific method. But obviously, if they calculate something into existence, for them, that is enough. They want to accept that as, the gospel according to them. And we all know that that's nonsense. You can't calculate stuff based on no experiment whatsoever. You have to do the experiment and then base your maths on that, and they don't have either.
Yeah, can I answer your question?
Well, but just before you do, it's just interesting you bring that up because Merle came into the pre-show and asked us a question about how we would explain the sun and its gravitational attraction within the begging the question fallacy. And I'm like, well, you've got an assumption of the gravitational field to begin with. The orbital mechanics is also assumed. So, yeah, Anthony, exactly. That it's requested that we work under the assumption that this force that's not a force that you can think of as a force does exist because they mathematically reify it. And then we've just got to accept that. It's like, no, hold on. Why have you reified this force into existence to begin with? Why?
Nathan.
Hello.
The normal mute that you call normal mute is actually you blocking them. So don't use that normal mute.
Oh,
Just
really?
overmute them.
Oh shit! Sorry, I didn't
Yeah,
realize. That's okay. Sorry, my bad. Do I need
that's
to
it.
take?
Good job, Righteous.
Sorry, I didn't know. You don't know what you don't know. What can I say? I thought that the higher mute was just like their internal mute that they could then take off again afterwards.
I want to comment on Sleeping Warrior statement. So when reality can't back up any claims of the R value, then the only thing you're left with is calculations.
Yeah, calculating into existence an R value. That's why Rumpus will always start his sentence with the words, well, if you imagine a sphere, well, that's literally the admission that he's reifying into existence mathematics. Well, don't imagine a sphere. Don't make any assumptions. Just calculate based on real-world experiments after the event. So what is the cause of the... I mean, we're talking about the radius now, any evidence of R. So where is the evidence for R? Where is that? Because if we haven't got it, why are we assuming it anyway in the first place? And the answer, of course, is because if we don't assume it, the model doesn't exist.
And we do it as flat earthers. And we do it as flat earthers.
Answer to that.
Hold on. We do it as flat earthers. So when I've pulled a few people up on this in the last couple of weeks, they'll say things like, we see further than we should, or the clock shouldn't be there. It's like, no. What you're doing is automatically giving them the leeway to have the question begged and assume that it's a sphere, but what we're seeing is an anomaly based on us being on a sphere. Therefore, the clock shouldn't be there. It's like, no, the clock's just there, you see it. Why are you suddenly apologising for it being there? Because it shouldn't be on the sphere model that we're not living on? You're just begging the question on their behalf when you justify something that you see as not just something that you see, but something that apparently shouldn't be there. It's like, no, it should be there. It's just not on their model. Their model might say it's not going to be seen, but it is. Who cares? That doesn't mean it shouldn't be there.
Well, that's interesting because when you ask people, like, what was your first proof or what brought you around to Flat Earth, a lot of them will say, and I've said it myself, was I see too far.
Exactly.
So you're right. We're already putting
Too
them on a
far?
ball.
Yeah, exactly. Too far? What do you mean too far? You just see what you can see. Oh, it's too far based on an assumption that there's a physical geometric sphere edge horizon that will block my view with its physical limitations based on geometry. It's going to obscure things into the distance. Therefore, when I see something in the distance, it shouldn't be there. I see too far. No, you don't. You just look and see. No explanation required for a flat earther. For a glober, the clock that apparently by flat earth standards shouldn't be seen, it's like there it is, you're seeing its photo. Well, that clock for a globe believer is a slightly looming non-standard refraction hyena holographic projection of a clock from behind the reified sphere edge horizon, now debunked with the black swan, to make it a refracted hologrammatic clock that shouldn't be seen. Well, that's their problem. Loaded on nonsense that I don't need to justify in any way as not being there or not supposed to be being there. It's there. I see it. It's a picture. There's a clock. Here's the distance I can see it at. Not seeing too far, just seeing a clock.
So how do we change our vocabulary? Like, what do you say?
Comes
Because
with time.
the
It
whole
comes with
world's
time.
hips are on a ball.
Comes with time as you learn that the magic is in the language. Right? Atmosphere. You say it without thinking about it. Well, what do you mean by atmo, air, sphere, fundamentalist religious presupposition that air takes the shape of a sphere? What do you mean by that? When you say atmosphere, you just mean the air around you, right? Well, it's just air. But it's been hijacked in the language so that you're always reifying this concept without even being consciously aware, just by talking. That's all you need to do. Well, that comes with time. You realise where you're saying things that you go, why have I got this in my language? Well, because it's part of the magic, that's why.
It's like saying abracadabra. Just keep saying sphere, sphere, everything's sphere. Atmosphere, ionosphere, thermosphere, just keep saying sphere, and everything's a sphere.
It's like gravity, isn't it? The more we talk about it, the more it becomes a thing. It becomes, we speak it into existence when it doesn't actually exist.
Ooh, that reminds me, Sleeping Warrior. That video you did like a few days ago, right? The one with relative density.
Outstanding.
Do you have the original video to that?
It's in the description box.
Is it? Okay. Because I'm very curious about something. Because I found it kind of funny how there was so much global spiral due to that video on your comments. I'm wondering if it'll be the same when you go to the original video with the original comments, because it seems like when somebody like whoever's speaking in that video is just describing reality, you know, it seems like the normal people would just say, wow, this is a great video, explains a lot. But on your video, apparently, like, there's a lot of global tears, people saying, oh, this makes no sense, this is ridiculous. It's like, but you didn't create that. This is just her explaining relative density, things we could actually practically work out.
Stop a sec.
There's so
One sec. Just one sec.
Go
Just
ahead.
one sec. Just one sec.
Go ahead.
So I'm going to ask a question, then I'd like Anthony to position this so that the audience understand what we're talking about. So first and foremost, any scientific evidence of gravity, and then Anthony, can you frame why I'm asking that question and how it's relevant, what your video is, and why we're talking about something that's cross-referenced with an original? Can you explain all that for my audience, please?
So gravity is the observed phenomena where things fall down. Well, we know that down is defined as a relative term, and it's the term that's relative to us because we up, down, we point. So with regards to gravity, we see an observed phenomena. Some things appear to float on water, some things sink in water. We do see a phenomena, right? But Einstein and Newton both calculated that effect based on two wildly different concepts, but they didn't test anything. So to answer the question, is there any scientific evidence for gravity? Yes, there is. We can demonstrate it. We know what causes gravity. We can accelerate stuff by giving something a bit of a wiggle, and we can demonstrate acceleration within our topic. However, they have only ever calculated the effect. So previously, the answer would have been, no, there is no evidence for gravity. But now there is, because 18 months ago, I put out a video where I did a little bit of egg movement with a bit of salt. 18 months later, it still hasn't been debunked or got even close to it. Now, obviously, it was a little bit of a time period lapsed in the meantime, and I've only recently added the maths to it. But I can now confidently say that there is evidence for so-called gravity. But it's not called gravity anymore. It's now called relative density because everything's relative to a medium, exists in a medium. Even if the medium's a vacuum, it still exists in a medium. And we can cause acceleration relative to that medium by manipulating either the medium or the object in it. Either way, we can cause the acceleration ourselves. The problem is you can't see the force of pressure. So fundamentally, we know it's there because balloons burst because too much of it. We do know pressure is a thing, but gravity is now demonstrated within our topic by manipulating the medium or the object. So the answer now is yes, there is scientific evidence for gravity, just not the way that they used to call it.
I'm going to be upset with you.
Hold on, Neil. And how is that relevant to what Chocolate asked? So Chocolate's asking you about a video that you've got a lot of disdain from Globers underneath, but yet there's an original that wouldn't have that. Why would that be? Can you frame that particular bit, please?
I had to go a little bit further because she didn't go quite far enough. We know the reason why things accelerate, but when you apply it within our topic, all of a sudden you haven't got the other two scenarios, Newton's or Einstein's, anymore because they couldn't manipulate it. But if you take it the step further than the original video and apply it real world, all of a sudden you debunk Newton and Einstein unintentionally, unless it's pointed out to you, and that's all I did. I pointed it out.
You're not doing what I'm hoping
that's
for.
That's why I asked. That's
hold on,
why
Chocolate.
So funny.
Hold on. The audience still doesn't know what you're talking about. So Anthony's taken a section of video that's made by a different YouTuber that goes through, in no bias terms towards heliocentrism or flat Earth, how relative density actually works. And it's merely a fairly detailed description that's been trimmed out, and Anthony's published it. Now, below that, there's a load of disdain from globe-believing people who don't like a mere description that's fairly mainstream of how relative density actually is described, with pictorial and I believe there was a few physical examples as well. Well, when you point out that to globe believers with normal standard rhetoric, normal standard descriptions, they lose their stuff because they can't cope with it, because it essentially replaces what they describe as gravity. Go on, Chocolate. Sorry.
Nah, it's all good. I'm sorry. Yeah, that's why I was pointing it out, because when I was looking at it and reading the comments, I was like, I'm pretty sure if I go back to the original video, this will be regular people just saying, wow, this is a great explanation for what's going on, because it is. But the only difference between that video And what Anthony did was say, well, this is what gravity is supposed to be.
Yeah.
Right? That's it. That's the only difference. And then you have Globers spiraling in the comment section. It's hilarious to me.
It is. And all I've done really is taken what I realised was the cause back like 18 months ago and then applied scientific method to it. And when you do that, all of a sudden you unintentionally realise that Einstein and Newton, you just debunked them. The problem is they just don't like it. But that doesn't change the fact some things are factually true. And if you do manipulate the density of an object or the density of the medium the object sits in, it does cause an acceleration. Now, you can deny that as much as you want, but you can repeat that yourself. You can demonstrate it to others. And it has been done. Rachel and then 00, 5 zeros, Rachel 0. She repeated it and she demonstrated to herself that it caused an acceleration. She repeated it, but they ignore the independent variable. They calculate instead of accepting the definition from the independent variable. And if you ignore the independent variable, then that allows you to reify mathematics into existence. But if you accept the independent variable, you debunk Newton and Einstein in one swoop, and they just don't like it. That's the problem.
I have a question about Newton's apple. How come you don't think that he thought about all of these things? Or did he just go right to gravity?
Honestly, I think that Newton saw the movement, wondered what caused it, came up with an idea, didn't like the idea, but then died, and then it was attributed to him. I think Einstein then saw the idea, realized Newton was being defamed in his death, corrected it. But if Einstein's theory of general relativity was applied to Earth instead of space-time, he would have directly, completely, and utterly debunked Newton. Because essentially that is what he does. But he created a new geometry for it to exist in to confuse the matter. But ultimately, we've realized what's going on. We can see the fourth wall now. We are the fourth wall.
Newton wrote his Principia in Latin. So when he mentions the word gravitas and the word massa, he's not speaking about the same terms as the ballers use. So he didn't do, like I'm agreeing with what Anthony's saying, he didn't do what they claim he did. Even when they tried to give his the equation that they claim is from him, it wasn't from him. So.
You want to add something, Elijah?
Yeah, I was just going to say sounds like a classic suiciding to me, but, it's just my opinion.
Any single viable hypothesis from any of the fields of astronomy, cosmology, or astrophysics?
Just looking at stuff. And then keep looking at stuff. Yeah.
And calculate stuff, and then it becomes a thing. We can calculate the convection currents in Venus based on squiggles on paper and interpretations of heat maps and things like that. And then for all of a sudden, we know what Venus is doing, and we say it's just a light in the sky. How do you know this stuff? And there is no answer to it. They just calculate stuff. They reify things into existence. That's what they do.
Yeah, but the math works.
It's not. No. Without a good story to help visualize, all these calculations don't mean anything. It's actually the story. That's the real astrophysics. The calculation is just the complicated tool to convince you that you're really smart and technical. It's the just so story that makes the real science.
I don't know, because half the time these guys don't even know the story, but they know there's some type of mathematics that hold whatever story they're not even aware of that makes it true. Reifies it into existence. So they don't need the story. They just need to know there's somewhere out there there's this magic equation that solves everything.
No, they make predictions.
That's
Chocolate.
the story. That's the story about the
predictions. Are those scientific predictions or no?
I just want to give an exclusive reveal in the sense that this is something new that I've started doing recently. Basically, I've started taking ownership of relative density in the sense that Earthers completely ignore it, and they just think that they've debunked it just by speaking it into existence, and that they think that's a debunk. But because we know that speaking stuff into existence doesn't debunk shit, that we also know that you've got to demonstrate that there is a debunk by doing a test again, adding a bit of mass, and then it not causing an acceleration. And we know obviously it's going to do it time and time again. So what I've realized is, because I've realized that Newton and Einstein both calculated this phenomena, And we can now replace that calculation with demonstration, and then we can claim ownership of it, which is what we do. Relative density is the thing. Just to piss the blurthers off, I'm now calling it, instead of Einsteinian and Newtonian, I'm now calling it Antonian gravitation, just to piss them off.
Nice.
So I don't... Obviously, gravitation is the wrong word, but if we call it something like what they use currently, they can kind of think of it as their thing. And that's what I'm trying to do. I'm edging closer towards their language to pull them away. Because if I use the word gravitation, then that sounds acceptable to them. But if we redefine all the other terms that link from it, it's generally going to pull them away from the Newtonian fantasy that doesn't even exist. It's correlative only.
Okay, well, you'd have to give it your surname.
Is it
then,
okay if I call it Flurfian gravitation?
No, you'd give it Anthony's surname, so it'd be Rileyan gravity. That would work.
That's what I said
I like
the other
both of them.
day. Yeah. It's Rileyan gravity.
Rileyan. Oh, wow, that sounds posh.
Get your act together, man.
I love it. Brian, Rileyan. Oh, that's got a nice ring to it.
Rileyan. But, I mean, part of it is just to piss the blurthers off. But the reality is we can demonstrate this stuff. So it is the explanation, unless science can go further than one step further and show that, well, actually, it was only correlative because there are other things that cause acceleration too. And they can refine my arguments, my demonstrations, my stuff. Because at the end of the day, I've put my name on the block here and it's me that's got all the flack. But the reality is it's been 18 months and no one's done anything to dispute it. Yeah, they can speak things into existence and they can bitch and moan about it. Doesn't change the fact, though. If you manipulate the density of the medium or the object, it'll move. Why? Who cares? It just does it. So unless it can be refined, then we're winning.
Go on, Chocolate.
So as I'm looking at, because I didn't look for the original video, but now that I'm looking at it, like it pretty much confirms what I suspected, that all the comments, oh, this is a great explanation, you deserve 1 million subscribers, this is amazing, it's the best channel for science, everything is perfect, amazing. Like every comment is, wow, this video is wonderful. But then you post it, all you say is, this is not gravity, it's just relative density, like the lady in the video was saying, and all the Globers lose their shit.
Yep.
It's hilarious.
You realize that you're also utilizing you're employing the same magic, if you will. So you say you can speak things into existence. Yeah. So for example, we could now debate for a couple of minutes, and I hope you'll indulge me in doing exactly that, whether it's Rileyan or Rileyan gravity, because obviously this now exists. We've just spoken it into existence. So is it Rileyan or Rileyan? Which one is it again? This thing that definitely exists.
I've got to disagree, Nathan. We haven't spoken it into existence. This is an evolution based on experiment. Let's not dilute it with a speaking it into existence fallacy, because that's now going to be a thing.
No.
Acknowledge that it's based
speaking
on
the
experiment.
title. No. Speaking the title into existence. The phenomena and the established cause of the phenomena is very well established. You established it. Hence us conjuring, if you will, the title for the phenomena and its now validated cause. Well, that's going to be dubbed, I dub thee, Rileyan gravity. Or is it Rileyan?
Rileyan. Well, it'll be spoken different from person to person and place to place. Sorry, but Rileyan sounds better. It sounds more dominant.
Badass.
Yeah,
I think I'd change the last word. Rileyan gravitation.
that's what I said the other day. Yeah, Rileyan gravitation.
No, you're all wrong.
It sounds
Yeah,
so much intelligent.
Rileyan.
yeah, I agree.
No, well, you're wrong. It's Rileyan, and that's just how it's always going to be. It's always going to be Rileyan gravitation. Oh, I've done it myself. I've said Rileyan now. Oh, well, looks like that's the way it's going to have to be. It is actually Rileyan.
Hang on. If you're Irish, it's Rileyan.
Flurfian gravitation. I ruined it.
Thanks for talking over me.
Thanks for ruining it.
If you're Irish, it's O'Reillian.
Yeah.
O'Reillian. O'Reillian. Oh.
But there is obviously another knock-on effect from doing so, and that's like there are some people even on our side that want to reify into existence the other thing that's going on, which is the claim that there is the electrostatic the incoherent dielectric acceleration, and basically the argument for that is spiders' webs. Now, ultimately, it does move spiders' webs, but it doesn't move anything bigger than spiders' webs.
What?
So yes, that is a minuscule.
Oh God, stop. I don't understand. You can't just say spiders' webs and expect me to understand what the hell you're babbling about. Even though it's not your argument, you're gonna have to expand on that. Don't dilute it too much that the audience doesn't
Okay, I
understand
think it's
either.
called ballooning, and I think the phrase comes from the idea that spiders are able to jump across from branches to branches as if by magic. And this thing called ballooning is attributed to electrostatics, or whatever you want to call it, incoherent dielectric, whatever's. But ultimately, it could just be riding a thermal at the same time. It's correlative, right? Now, they can demonstrate with rubbing a balloon on your chest or your t-shirt and then sticking it to the wall. You can demonstrate an attractive force there, but it disperses after a short period of time, and it doesn't seem to be permanent. Now, the claim is this incoherent dielectric acceleration is also a factor, and that might well be true, but it requires experiment to demonstrate. Now, if somebody can correlate that by demonstration that it is a factor that makes the egg move, for example, then I'll happily accept that it's correlative and there's more. But until that happens, we can't just calculate or reify into existence.
Hello?
But electrostatics doesn't move over distance.
Oh,
It's always
God, that's where
short
Arwin's
range.
going to jump in, of course, because I'm trying to get... Right, so if you're trying to say that you need experimentation, you've made a big jump. So you're saying, well, if that's got something to do with the egg... Hold on. No. If you're saying that there's some sort of magnetism, incoherent, dielectric, or otherwise, then that would be the effect that you're going to be studying. So you're going to give me the validated cause of the effect of what is described and might even be capable of demonstration as incoherent dielectric magnetism. Well, that's your effect.
I'm just trying to apply.
I have that completely debunked. It's completely debunked with the molecular, the molecular makeup of hydrogen and helium. What makes helium more dense is what they call neutrons, which is just innate matter. So that's it. It's over.
But I guess you can say electrostatics what is a thing without tying to it the claim. For instance, Riley brought up the fact that, well, not they bring up these spiders, right? And they've also said it, they can do this over large bodies of water too. But I don't see what this has to do with down. That's all I'm saying.
Electrostatics don't work over distance. The spider web thing only works because it is one persistent thread. If the thread was cut, the effect immediately drops because electrostatics don't attract other things over a vast distance. Very specific.
Yeah, but don't forget though, their claim is still correlative. There's no evidence that shows that changing the field potential between like A and B points causes the spider's web to move. Now it might well do it, but I haven't seen any demonstration to prove it. I've seen correlative claims, which is what Einstein and Newton did, but I haven't seen any demonstration. So it might well do it, and you can imagine that a static charge from a balloon might cause the effect, but nobody's actually done it. So until they've actually done it, let's just say, well, until you demonstrate it, then it's not a thing. It's just a story.
That's what I was going to ask. Is there any experiment?
Attract over distance.
Hold on. We'll get to Neil's question. But hold on. Exactly, we'll get to Neil in a second. Just give me a sec. Right. So Neil's asking if there's any experiment. What are we observing as the phenomena, first and foremost? In this instance, I'm hearing all sorts of crazy stuff. I'm hearing incoherent dielectric magnetism, balloons stuck to walls, spiders. What's the phenomena we're studying?
Spiders appear to defy gravity.
Defy gravity? What's gravity?
Whoa.
I don't know, but it's quite possible that spiders have got a neutral buoyancy.
Stop. I've heard all this. Stop. I don't need it again. Thank you.
Don't know what gravity is, but
stop.
Spiders
Hello. Just need to know what the phenomena we're studying is, and if it's gravity, because that's the subject matter at hand. So, is the phenomena gravity or not?
Phenomena is.
Say again.
Phenomena is spider doesn't fall. Is that what he's trying to say?
I just want to know what the phenomena we're studying is.
No, the phenomena is that the spider appears to jump between branches as if by magic, and he doesn't fall down.
Okay.
Because he can. That's down to. Sorry, Nathan. I talk after you.
No. That's it. I'm just trying to establish if that's the phenomena. We're trying to figure out why spiders don't fall down, go boom boom when they jump. Is that the phenomena?
It sounds incoherent to me.
Yeah, that is the phenomena. Spiders appear to defy gravity when they make the first jump from point A to point B.
Again, everyone, shh. Anthony, your phenomena includes what you personally have described at the start of the show as a reification fallacy. So why are we describing a reification fallacy as a phenomena that involves spiders? This is beyond me. I'm getting very confused. It's giving me a headache.
Well, to be fair,
Spiders
there
can
does appear
jump,
to be a
Anthony.
phenomena.
Spiders
There
can
does appear
jump.
to be a phenomena.
But spiders can jump, Anthony.
What is that
Spiders
phenomenon?
are great jumpers. So spiders
I'm
are
getting
very
it from
good
all
jumpers.
corners now. My God, I'm getting it from all corners. Not even that. From the chat, Evan 5935. Nathan Oakley. Spiders appear to defy, according to him, gravity when producing a sort of web parachute-looking thing. What's gravity? Why is this part of the phenomena? I don't get it. I'm very unclear about this. I need it clarifying.
Exactly, Nathan.
Wait, so are they
Gravity
using a
is
web
relative
parachute?
density.
Because then are they even
Do spiders
defying
defy
what you would
relative
call
density?
gravity,
No.
which
Hold
we
on,
don't know
Brian.
what it is?
Hold on, Brian. Go ahead, Crack Villain. Let's try again.
Well, so can we just be clear? Is someone actually saying that they use a form of a web parachute? Is this what is being said by you, Sleeping?
I don't
Or
think
is
that's
that
the
just
issue.
something-
It may be, but that's not the issue. The issue is
I know.
what's the phenomena being studied, and if the phenomena is being described with the reification of gravity, then that's not a phenomena we observe.
No, of course not. The phenomena, in my opinion, would be, well, obviously, again, some form of displacement of air by form of a parachute, okay, that would allow it to, I guess, well, does it never fall down? Does it float?
I'm looking
Does it
around the
float
room
using this
going,
parachute?
is this a wind-up? Is somebody having me on?
I don't know. Is someone having me on?
Is somebody having me on? Right, why are we discussing spider parachutes? What the hell is going on?
Me too.
It's
I'm
because
with
I want to know too.
Well,
One at a
maybe
time.
Anthony
I had
should watch
Arwin
a
first.
video of this.
Arwin, what's going on? Why are we discussing spider parachutes? This seems silly.
Because it's being used to reify gravity by some people. I
No,
guess.
it's been used to claim that the direction of things falling up or down is caused by this incoherent dielectric acceleration. However, there is no experiments to demonstrate that this is true. It's just rhetoric.
Bingo. That's my point. Where's the experiment?
Right. So
Exactly.
I'm curious.
Anthony, could
what-
Anthony please show the video? Sorry.
Well,
I'm sorry, Brian, I
this
didn't
seems
catch what you said,
weedy.
'cause-
Right,
Could you please share the
everyone
video?
stop. Right,
of
one.
this
Eli,
happening?
then Crack Villain, then Brian. Eli, go ahead.
Can I talk too at
Then
some
Arwin.
point?
okay.
Thanks.
Actually, Eli, can
Yeah,
you wait
laugh.
1 second? Arwin was
Nah.
long in the queue first. Sorry, Eli. Go ahead,
Okay,
Arwin.
go ahead,
Then Eli.
Arwin.
Right. So I'm pretty sure that electrostatics of any sort, dielectric or otherwise, are not comparable to the formula, the mathematical reified formula of the original gravity, Newtonian gravity. So what I do think now, however, is what is actually the density of that spider web material? Because if by chance, can I finish? If by chance its density is effectively lower than maybe the air, then maybe that explains why it's used like that, because
Perfect.
it's
Thank
the
you.
ultralight product. Effectively,
Okay, we'll get
that
Anthony's
could be the
response
case.
after. Thank you, Arwin. Okay, Eli, go ahead.
Well, I mean, I guess I've lost why we're having this conversation in the first place. Which I guess Anthony would help, because I mean, on the one hand, if electrostatics has something to do with why the spider that once wasn't able to seemingly float can float because of a tiny thread, like something might be going on there. But if it's used to say, see, things are oriented in a fashion where things are have a bias down, that's not even what the spider's doing. That's all I'm saying. Like, it could be something, but
Okay,
as far as the up down thing, I don't get it.
Okay, I totally
I have
agree.
a go at
And-
this?
okay, everyone,
So
hold
just 1
on. I'm
second.
getting there. We're getting some order. Right, next Crack Villain. Thank you very much, Eli. I couldn't agree more. I don't get the connection. It seems benign, but
so,
yeah. Go ahead, Crack
So
Villain.
we're talking about ballooning, right? So apparently people are either using this as a reification of gravity, or they, like you said, maybe talking about a vector with currents. This is just, I believe this is just a misinterpretation. Maybe there is some sort of credibility to this, right? So I think we're talking about spiders that basically create balloons in order to escape, right? So they essentially create a sac out of web, and this sac is able to carry them away. Either small winds, okay, right? air currents, electric air currents, obviously as well. Obviously remember, birds always fly around on this stuff. Okay, but yeah,
Okay.
obviously this
Okay.
comes again
Great.
down to...
Thank you. Okay,
On
brilliant.
screen for you.
I've got Adam presented, but Brian's in the wings. Then I want Sleeping Warrior, then Adam. So Brian, go ahead.
Well, I just wanted to know what the thing was that was being claimed so we could see it. So I wanted to know if Anthony could show a video of this. Because it seems like there's a claim out there. None of us seem to know what the thing is. And if we see it, then we can decide, okay, because I was along the same lines as Arwen, right, is like a spider's defining density? No. So show us the thing that's supposed to be the claim, and then we can go from there. Thank you.
I totally agree as well. Show me the phenomena. Let's establish what that is first. Sleeping Warrior, then Adam.
I've got a video of the phenomena.
But just bear with me, whoever that is. Sleeping Warrior, go ahead. You remember Arwen's point?
I don't really have anything to add. I mean, ultimately, Arwen's question of what is the density of spider's silk is a valid question. I'm just trying to look it up now. Obviously, it's tiny, but it appears to be 1.2754. I'm looking into it. I think that's the question we need to ask. What is the density of spider's silk relative to air? We need to find that answer. So that's what I'm currently doing.
Perfect. Adam, you're on screen presented with the...
Yeah, I think there seemed to be a bit of confusion as to what the claim was. I did a little look-see. Do you want me to read it?
I don't know what it is. Feel free.
And then there's two paragraphs. So every day around 40,000 thunderstorms crackle around the world, collectively turning Earth's atmosphere into a giant electrical circuit. The upper reaches of the atmosphere have a positive charge and the planet's surface has a negative one. Even on sunny days with cloudless skies, the air carries a voltage of around 100 volts for every meter above the ground. In foggy or stormy conditions, that gradient might increase to tens of thousands of volts per meter. Ballooning spiders operate within this planetary electric field. When their silk leaves their bodies, it typically picks up a negative charge. This repels the similar negative charges on the surface on which the spiders sit, creating enough force to lift them into the air. And spiders can increase these forces by climbing on twigs, leaves, or blades of grass. Plants being earthed have the same negative charge as the ground that they grow upon, but they protrude into the positively charged air. This air creates substantial electric fields between the air around them and the tips of their leaves and branches, and the spiders ballooning from those tips. So it's the negative static electric charge that's produced on the thread that they send out that create sufficient static, I think, to create sufficient lift. A little similar to like if you build up sufficient static on a balloon, you can stick it to a wall. I think that's the theory.
Okay, fine. So we've got one answer. The phenomena being studied then, not gravity, static electricity, correct?
Yes, yeah. The
gravity.
claim seems clear.
I just need to make the conclusion. So static electricity is not gravity. It's static electricity.
Correct.
Okay.
Correct.
So this phenomenon has nothing to do with your egg, Anthony.
It says it there in the claim. Ballooning spiders operate within this planetary electric field. So it is a static effect that this is all talking about, how spiders utilize the small forces that static electrics generate to give them lift, because they can throw at us a web, use statics, and that because they're so light and tiny with a really, really long thread that can generate sufficient lift via static electricity within the standard planetary electric.
So let's add context then. Let's apply it. So we understand that static charge will stick balloons to walls, but if there's the claim that it causes, in addition, it's correlative to what we can already demonstrate, then we need to see that demonstrated. So what needs to happen is, if you believe that there is this incoherent dielectric acceleration, then apply it and demonstrate it within the context in which we're talking to demonstrate acceleration. Now, we all accept that there's a tiny, tiny force there. I don't think anybody disputes that. But we also know that it's kind of limited to what it's able to do, which will be relative to a spider's web. Now, if it doesn't push much more than a spider's web, and it's not able to push a leaf, for example. So Newton's apple is out the question. If there are limitations to that, it's an insignificant force. So yes, it might exist at a tiny level, but if it's not strong enough to do anything, it isn't the reason why up from down is decided, as I've heard coined, because we know the reason why up from down is decided. Well, we have a definition to distinguish up from down being a relative term, but we can also manipulate the density of the medium or the object, and that gives you the direction that's claimed to be caused by spider's web stuff, and it's just not true. It's too small for it to cause anything, but it is there. But let's not spend any time on it because it's a waste of time.
But it,
I don't know.
just to make the conclusion once more, it is static electricity, also known as incoherent dielectric magnetism, I believe. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Incoherent dielectric acceleration, I think they call it.
Well, it reminds me of people saying that the Coriolis effect is actually conservation of angular momentum. No. The conservation of angular momentum is the conservation of angular momentum, and the Coriolis effect is Coriolis effect. Likewise, static electricity is static electricity, and gravity is a reification fallacy.
Could I put something up?
Yeah, Brian. Yeah, go, Brian. I'll go after you.
No, you go first, Tent.
Go ahead, Tent.
All right, that's fine. If Nathan's okay with it, I put 3 articles.
Go.
Yes. Spiders can fly by weaving 10-foot long silk parachutes to float through the air. I've got 3 articles in Masterbeat. That's just the first one. It's an interesting one on the crab spider, which I highlighted with it says the stickiness and thickness of air in relation to the spider silk is the key to the crab spider's whole deal. As the sticky air flows around the spider's fine threads of silk, it creates turbulence. So instead of using their own energy, like it says chumps, but I think it's trying to say chimps, the spiders let the air do the hard work of creating the turbulence that carries them aloft. The researchers suspect the updrafts that lift the spiders only occur at lower speeds, which is why the spiders don't balloon when the wind is gusting.
Can I add something?
Feel free.
Well, can I go? Can I just go first?
Brian and then Eli. Go ahead.
Thank you.
That's twice.
The debunk of it completely having anything to do with an up or down vector is gas, because the sun causes convection within the waters and the atmosphere and the atmos, and the air has a displacement that happens due to warm and cold air having different densities. And the air and gases are not affected at all by magnetism or really electricity or anything. So, convection completely debunks that claim.
Eli?
Yeah, I was just going to say there are, I think you would call them parasailers. They don't have any motors or anything. They just have, the parachute, and they use the currents of the wind to gain an elevation. So, I mean, that seems analogous to what 10th Man is saying with the spiders.
Yeah, I deal with spiders every day in my greenhouses. Every night they do their webs to catch the mosquitoes or flies or whatever got in there, and I go through every day, break them up, and they're back the next day. And a lot of them are running away from me when they see me on the frame of the grow bed, and a lot of them just throw out a silk strand and go straight down to run away. There isn't much air movement in my greenhouse when the doors aren't open. So, but when there is, they're all over the place. They're going left, right, up, down, don't matter.
Anybody else? Any more for any more? Crack Villain, did you want to add something?
No, I could basically add that this was confirmed, in fact, by an experiment in 2018. And basically, yeah, what's been said so far is exactly correct. There is actually videos of this ballooning spiders. It's not so much a thread; it's called kiting. For that reason, it's basically a balloon they create, and yeah, it uses not just winds; it also does. It seems to be in relation to the electric fields, and also convection as well is involved in some way.
So we need to add a little bit of magnitude to that. How strong is this?
Well, I don't know how I can add about strength to it, because it says the journeys achieved vary from a few meters to 100 kilometers. Even atmospheric samples collected from balloons at 5 kilometers altitude and ships mid-ocean have reported spider landings, and the mortality is actually high. So there's different
So
species
from
that have
that,
different.
from that, we can infer that the magnitude could be massive. So
What are
every
you guys
state's-
saying? What is it you're trying to say here? I live on 32 acres. I'm walking in the middle of it, and all of a sudden I see a spider land on one of my kids' face out of nowhere. The wind is carrying him. What is going on here?
We're just trying to quantify
Not
the
always the
claim to see how strong the effect is that is claimed, and whether or not it does define the direction for which we can all observe things seem to fall up and down. We perceive these things to be up and down, not
Right.
that they are an absolute.
What,
all we're trying to do.
But what's that got to do
Convection,
with
though.
the spider? But what's that got to do with the spider
Oh
in
wow!
the middle of a
One
plain
second,
field?
just to add a little bit
landing-
more. Many sailors
Oh,
have reported
gosh.
spiders being caught in their ship's sails over 1,600 kilometers, 990 miles away from land.
Okay, yes, but I just want to answer 10th Man's question, because it's being utilised, from what I can glean from this conversation, massive props to Anthony for giving it such consistency, is that there's a claim by way of a false comparison between static electricity and a claim of the assignment of a downward vector, which is formerly known in the heliocentric rhetoric as gravity, but on the flat Earth side as a juxtaposition of incoherent dielectric magnetism, also known as static electricity, being the attributable downward vector cause, formerly known in a different model as gravity. Now, that has been utilising a claim of spiders, from what I can glean, to assert that this incoherent dielectric magnetism is actually in effect and demonstrable as a natural phenomena with the spiders. Am I correct in my summary, Anthony?
Yes.
Yeah.
Can I add something?
Wow.
Could I say something after Tent? If Tent's going to say something?
No.
I just said wow.
I
I
was
can't
there
believe
before you.
that they have to stretch that much. Pun intended. Go, Brian.
Okay, go ahead,
Yeah.
crack villain.
Thank you. I just wanted to state
Brian, go
again
ahead.
for.
No, Righteous.
Oh, thank you.
Wait, it was Righteous. Let me just say something quick.
Nathan?
Just let Righteous get his words in and then go ahead, Brian.
Okay.
Righteous, go ahead.
Instead of using the spiders, why not just use like gyroscopes? Like they create something that negates this, what you call it, incoherent, static, whatever, right? So because they negate this other variable, is why gyroscope work the way they work.
You're gonna have to pad that out for us to make it make sense. I don't know if you're making this claim.
A gyro creates what is the word? It creates a dipole, right? And a dipole negates this incoherent, static, whatchamacallit, magnetism, right?
You don't know, but then I don't know,
We're not-
Righteous. So you're gonna have to pad this
Well,
out.
that's how it works. It's certainly not negating just buoyancy and density because it's electric.
Yeah, but the claim is that this dielectric acceleration or whatever causes an up and down vector, but convection of air disproves that, because air, all gases are not affected, can't be affected by magnetism or electricity, and we know that convection is warm air that's becoming less dense is being displaced by colder air that has gained density. And that's also displacing the colder air as the colder air is displacing it. So one displaces the other down, the other displaces the other up. There's nothing to do with the dielectric. So even though what Righteous is saying has relevance, because I doubt he's saying it for nothing, it's not needed.
Well,
Spiders
yes,
have
but
nothing to do with
while we
Newton's
are
gravitation.
while we're postulating that, and Paul has pointed this out from the chat, or Bible literalist, I should say. A quick read of this article gave me the impression that it was due to different electric fields, not wind. In other words, that's what's being postulated in the article, which is why it's being proposed as an evidence of incoherent dielectric magnetism or static electricity. But that's being juxtaposed into the reason for an assignment of up and down. And it's like these two things aren't linked.
So I go on, Righteous. Sorry.
I think
That wasn't me.
it wasn't Righteous.
Okay. I thought someone was maybe it was Eli. Sorry.
Did anyone else that hasn't spoken already have any comment on this that they wanted to get in, but maybe haven't had the opportunity to muscle in? Okay, while no one's answering, I'll just give a summary. So we are talking about the flat Earth assertion that we do have a quote-unquote gravity, but it's actually incoherent dielectric magnetism that's demonstrated with these spiders and their displacement. So, one last call. Anybody else who hasn't spoken already want to add anything that we haven't had already?
I can't say something because I already spoke.
Give them a couple of seconds more just to see if anybody else is shy and does actually have something to add.
I would just say using
Oh,
the claim.
if anyone wants to look
hold on,
into it a
Crack
little bit
Villain.
further,
Hold on, Crack Villain. Go ahead, Chocolate.
I would just say that using the claim that somehow this incoherent dielectric magnetism or acceleration or whatever you call it is actually gravity, and then using the spiders to prove that. Aren't we talking about the spiders going up and moving around in the air? We're not talking about spiders falling down due to gravity. And
Yeah,
from what I remember,
claim
gravity's
is-
pulling things down, right?
Look, Chocolate. Right,
The claim is
through this conversation, I've actually thought it was a wind-up. This to me is a joke.
Yeah, I've got
me
a
as
slight
well.
headache from this nonsense. What are we talking about even?
Yeah, the claim is that it denotes up from down. It is the deciding factor. Up from down. That is the claim.
Listen, Billy, actually, wait there. We could disprove this instantly. I'm sorry, because obviously we have electrostatics and magnetism. This also has created. I guess what they're saying is that up and downward vector could be decided by this thing. I get that, but it isn't a stable up or down whatsoever.
Yeah, well, I have to bring back in gas. Gas is not affected by electricity or magnetism. So, and we have convection, which is a change in density.
Again, we're talking about
caused by
the
sun.
vector, Brian. The vector of the buoyancy and density.
Sorry, Riches?
We're talking about the
Vector
vector
is a-
of the buoyancy and density.
The word
Let's
The
keep it
word
simple.
vector is a defined term. So vector has both direction and magnitude. Well, we know that mass has got magnitude, but it lacks direction. But when you put two masses together competing for the same space, be it liquids or solids or gases, if there's two things together in the same area competing for the same space, then you get a direction. And that's the bit that blurters don't want to tell you, because their model states that mass doesn't do anything, which on itself is true. It's the same reason why density isn't a force, because on its own it isn't. But the minute you have it next to something else that's competing for the same space, all of a sudden an acceleration occurs, and then mass does cause something then, and they just don't like being told it because it doesn't support their model.
Exactly. Well said.
Except for the mass bit.
Well, what's mass? Yeah.
And what model? They got a model yet?
Yeah, they say they've got a model, but you know, I've been asking for it for the longest of times and never actually got it.
Any Globers in Discord got a model?
Can we see it?
To us? Yeah, can we see it? Can we talk about it?
What's known as poking the bear.
So the conclusion of this spider's web point is that unless it can be demonstrated that it actually does cause an effect, then speaking it into existence doesn't do it. We've got past that now. That's gone. So let's demonstrate it. Otherwise, sit down, because it doesn't do it. Stop talking about it as though it's a thing. You're bringing it into existence like gravity. It's no different.
In the conclusion for this, hang on. The conclusion for the spiderweb thing in 10th Man's version is the answers on the World Wide Web.
With that, I'll say, if you are watching this on either Nathan Oakley 1980 or Nathan Oakley Premiering streams, then stay tuned, as there will be an after show to follow. Unfortunately, if you are watching this live, this is where we bid you farewell. A huge, massive, enormous thank you to all of you tuned in, subscribed, commented, joined as a Nathan Oakley 1980 channel member, and all that good stuff. Also, below this video, there is a link to get £50 for switching your UK electricity supplier to Octopus Energy. Once again, stay tuned if you're watching on either Premiering stream. I've been Nathan Oakley, and I'll see you all in the next video.
Things down when, especially when the freaking spiders going up. All weird.
Up is down.
Up is down, right is
That's what
left.
Ruppus.
It is
isn't
quite
that Ruppus said
interesting,
you're going
though. I'll
up
be
and going
honest.
down at the same time? Didn't Ruppus say that? Didn't Ruppus say
Yeah,
you're
Rumpus
going
does
up
say
and
that, yeah.
down at the same time?
Yeah.
Yeah.
He also
there you
said
go.
gas runs
Yeah.
around, wanders about. Said some weird stuff, man.
Yeah,
And it's got
I'm
springs
no
on them.
longer interested in the
It's
rovers
got on
anymore. We got fighting on the home front.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I think that
I
we.
I like eating flat
I mean,
earthers,
but that's
dude.
just me.
Yeah, mate, Eli, it's good fun eating flat earthers, isn't it?
Well, now we
I
know
think-
how.
I
Air
mean,
Jordans
why
work.
not? We got to do what's most relevant, right? I mean,
Exactly,
the
right.
earthers are not relevant at the moment, obviously.
Well, maybe you just don't hear them in the after show because it always pops off with about 20, 15 ballers come in here and just laugh at everything you guys just talked about for a couple
Well,
of
yeah,
hours.
but they do that when we
After
leave.
the show.
They may not
That's
show
weird.
up here,
Weird,
but they're
relevant.
definitely
Where
wild.
are
in the
they
after
now?
Show when nobody listens to, it's not on the air, when nobody hears it. Yeah, I agree. They come on and they make asses of themselves.
It's easy.
Is that like when we leave then?
Just
Hopped
ask.
Well,
on,
they're
and
just
then
very
you said you don't want him
confident
anymore.
once you guys.
Some bait
Everybody
and switch going on here.
That's the
Just ask
definition
them.
of not relevant. Right? That's what I said.
Yeah,
Not
but
relevant. After the
You
show
only
is not
need one
relevant.
question to deal with that. Ask all of them. Do they agree or disagree that spoilers do not debunk Roylean gravitation? And
Yeah.
keep it on that. Because that they have
I feel like I need a
means
PhD
absolutely
first before I
nothing.
make.
Yeah,
Sorry,
I mean,
cut
because
in there,
obviously the Earth is not going to be a ball forever. So I'm just trying to save as many of my flat Earth friends from the flat Earth priests before it's too late.
Yeah.
I like the way you said that, Elijah. The Earth's not going to be a ball forever. What do you know
That
that
was
I
very
don't
good.
know? That was funny.
Well, Flat Earth should be this. It should be a non-profit community outreach program at this point, because if we're all pretty well and understood that it's a flat, no measurement of curvature, then we should be helping people that seem to be confused by the brainwashing, right?
So we are. This
That's
is all
the
we
fun
can
that
do.
I get out of
Isn't that why
it.
we're here?
That's why we do it
For
every
them
day.
to share their pain?
Well, that's what I'm saying. There's a lot of them. There's a lot of them in this channel right now, even.
Oh, do you
Yeah, but they're
care?
in denial. They're in
that's
They
denial.
can come on and talk to us. They don't have to
The thing
stay
is,
there
you got to
and wait
remember.
for the show to end.
Remember the tactics of trolls. They don't like being outed in public. They don't want to be seen to be weak. They'll only bully you when they can get you on your own when it's not being broadcast. That's what they do.
True.
I think you should ignore them, to be honest. I think totally shut them out and ignore them. I wouldn't even go on the after show. Let them stew. Let them talk amongst themselves.
They didn't
Oh,
even
you're
come out
talking
for
about
spiders.
you're talking about outreach, right? Sorry to, but he's talking about outreach. I'm all for that. I've spoken to my mom, my dad. You know, they're all fine. I'm not here to exorcise demons, though.
I am.
Just one
I
second.
am. Yeah, it's a therapy session.
Just 1
when you
second.
get
Can I
these-
Yeah,
crack- sorry,
give
guys.
him
Hello,
holy
hello,
water.
hello. Crack villain. Please, can you back off your mic? For some reason, your volume control doesn't work, and you're 10 times louder than everyone else.
Really?
Yes. Please, can you back
Really?
off your mic? And by that I mean back off your mic permanently, not like then go reverting back immediately to blasting out everyone's eardrums.
I'm
Sorry
sorry,
to
I was
interrupt.
thought it was very quiet.
Go ahead, Anthony.
No, you
Well,
are
I mean,
pretty
you
loud.
notice it with. Sorry.
Don't leave the dead air, Anthony. When I've said please go ahead.
Oh, sorry, I didn't realise you said me. I didn't hear that bit got
Yeah,
spoke
go
over.
ahead. Go ahead.
For me, it's like we don't even need to engage these people anymore. They don't have a purpose anymore. It's like literally they have no purpose. They just sit there to cause disruption. This is probably one of the best shows we've had well, I would say it was a very constructive show. We didn't have any rumpus in. We didn't have any major fallouts. We had a really good conversation. We don't need them anymore. Just literally, it's like you have no place anymore, trolls.
I'm wondering, did any of the Globers in Discord want to have any comments about Rumpus's statements of gas running around and wandering about? Yeah, anybody? No? Just wondering.
Tends to run around. Tends to wander about.
Yeah.
Because
How do you contain something that, or how do you stop something from wandering around when that's its very nature? That's weird.
Because balls.
Yep, there you go.
You don't need containment. I mean, if you think of gas like cows, they tend to wander about, and you just don't put a fence around them, and none of them get run over in the roads or anything. They don't need containment. They just wander about, and that's all fine.
Imagine gas as cows. I mean, I should have done that like 5 years ago. Shit.
Imagine
Well,
them.
how do you think you get your leather seats? They wander about, get hit by cars.
Notice how quickly
molecular bonds.
Imagine
notice
them.
how easily Rumpus goes
that's
to
right.
imagination land?
Imagine they've got community bonds, Adam, and although they can wander about, they all stay in kind of like this generalized area. So you'd like imagine a line around them. We'll give it a name. We'll call it the Carmen line. So you've got this imaginary line around the cows, and that imaginary line means that there's social bonds. Keep them all together. And even though they can wander around freely, they generally stay in that area.
Yeah, the Kelman line.
Furthermore, I can weigh all of them all at once because they all generally stay in that general area inside the Carmen line. So I can weigh them.
Can we just not use cows when Rumpus is here? Because he'll go into you utter moron.
Udder moron.
Yeah, udder moron.
He'll milk it for all he
says
can, let me tell you.
that on a lot of other. It's his tagline.
You had one job.
Did you know that moron is in the YouTube algorithm as a swear word?
Really?
It is.
Wow.
You look, right, underneath these subtitles. Do I risk being demonetized by doing this? Moron, 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 moron. Now look at the line in subtitles. What's under there? I guarantee it won't say it.
Wow.
Cowardice Globers.
Wait.
I'll call them Globers in this instance.
Cup your mic. Cup your mic.
Sounds like a wind tunnel.
Yeah, I was gonna say that's how you contain balls too. Is, you cup them. But,
Were you flying around in a dielectric then at that moment?
Did he just make a cupping balls joke? I hope not.
Yes, he did. Yes.
Yeah.
Eli, we're still confusing you.
So yesterday, and let me make sure I'm deaf because the wind is a little.
Cup your mic. Put your hand like a cup around the mic, and it stops the wind.
Yeah. How's this?
Are you cupping your mic? Sounds good to me.
Okay. So
Copy.
I've been pointing Globers to this video that I love to watch, and it's about, it's a presentation on Eratosthenes, but he begins the conversation with saying that flat earthers are right because you wouldn't be able to see the curvature of the earth, not even from the ISS. So they are being what's the word? They're lying because I can't find a better word. So I've shared that video around, and now I can't find that video, nor can I find anything on the guy that actually does the presentation, which is Paul Larson. It's just scrubbed from the internet. And Riley's had instances where, he's looked up something that was there and then it wasn't. It's like, if flat earth is so stupid, why do you have to delete what it actually is as far as the model is concerned? If because that's your model. No, you can't see the curvature of the earth. unless you're putting it in CGI from a place that you claim data is coming from, aka the satellites. You know, it's
Probably because
ridiculous.
it's like the 1984 description. It's Winston shoving things down the memory hole. That on occasion he might glance at, and it has some minor bearing on his existence. But for the most part, he's just shoving things down the memory hole without giving it much consideration, and then it's wiped from existence. And likewise, if somebody edits a page, often it's not necessarily because they think that there's some mass deception that's going on. It just gets edited. And whoever's editing it's just been set the task of editing it or removing it or whatever, and they're not really necessarily giving it any consideration. They're probably not in the slightest bit nefarious. It just seems that way to us because we're referencing it, and suddenly it's not there. But that happens countless times.
Yeah.
I noticed that with the original first ever supposed globe from 1462 or 1492 was the same year as Columbus supposedly discovered the Americas. When I looked at that in 2016, it was like one of those old World War II soccer balls, the brown leather ones that were all badly stitched together. It was like a misshaped version of that with some pieces of leather glued onto it. And now it's a completely different thing that is very elaborate, that has all the latitude and longitude lines on it, and it spins and all this other stuff. So it was like, it's akin to, if they're claiming the one that's there now is the very first globe ever, then that's akin to saying the first ever car was a 2021 Audi A6 turbo diesel automatic. Do you know what I mean? It's the first one ever, that car.
Yeah, it's their narrative. It's all based on just so stories. So if the just so stories need a little bit of refinement, a little bit of spit and polish, then they're more than happy to do it, aren't they?
Yeah, Sleeping Warrior, could you send me a DM so I could send you a couple of things?
Yeah, what's your name on thingy?
It's Crackville, and we have had correspondence on it before, but I literally cannot find you for the life of me.
Don't do it. He's a weirdo. Don't do it. Don't do it.
Not the dating site.
nah, Crackers are good. He's cool.
Take it to Grindr, lads.
Crosso, Cracko, Crosso. No globe proof.
Okay, well, I have another question.
We're not being overburdened with a plethora of globe proofsies out here today. No, maybe next week.
We gave up on this line a while back, Chocolate. you still pull it out thread
I
occasionally.
ask every once in a while, man. You know, just throw it out there. See if maybe somebody's got something marinating that they want to, serve up.
If you're really that keen, the way QE does it is he'll go into the side chat and just see who's making a proofsy in there, and then if they're in the live stream chat or after show chat as it is now, just call them out by name. There you go. There's your tip of the day if you actually want what you're asking for.
No, that requires me to take out my phone and do a lot of work.
It's just so strange because
the thing is,
I
we should
guarantee
have
you
to
right
ask
after
for
you're
it.
done, they're going to come
It should
in
be
with
thrown at us, right?
No, you have to earn globe proofs.
Oh shit! I should be ducking globe proofs right now.
Hold on, Chocolate and
Like,
Ryan.
whoa,
Hold
that
on.
was
Hello.
a hell of a proof. Wow.
Yeah, the enthusiasm level is high. Go ahead, Sing Cleanser.
Well, because I noticed QE likes to partake in the after show once everybody clears out from your stuff. But he usually calls them out by name, and there's several Globers in the chat that are patiently waiting for you to call off the show, and then they'll be chomping at the bit to actually get their word in and say how stupid everything was that we just heard. So QE likes to call them out by name, but it's like if you have the opportunity to talk and be publicized on the internet for everyone to hear how big brain baller opinions you have, it's just like I don't get it. It's like, why, if you could just confront these people, why wouldn't you guys just confront them?
I agree.
Globers.
Where's that big brain
Anthony
energy?
told you why. They
I
don't
do
like
have a
being
question
called
for you
out
and them.
in public.
Yeah, Yeah, the thing to do
So
there would be
I
all
did have.
flat earthers stop dealing with the Discord after show. Once the show is over, once the after show of the show is over, like by 4:00 or whatever, UK time, just don't be in there. Then they have no choice. They can just talk to themselves. Then they
Yeah,
have
but
to
Brian,
engage.
Brian, I come in there sometimes. I just pop in and execute everybody and leave.
Yeah, but not everyone can do that, Neil. That's the thing about it. A lot of flat earthers might end up in there and they can't do that. They end up getting because they don't know how to deal with it.
Well, the
And
good
they
thing,
don't
well,
deserve
listen,
it anyway.
because I very much enjoy the after show. Once you guys are done, the after show is when the actual debate, it seems, comes alive. Is because there's a lot of Globers that want to tell you and want to debate with you. It's just they don't have the confidence, or I don't know what's going on really. But there's a whole. I love the debate aspect.
So why
of
don't
it,
you encourage
and
them to come on?
Hold on,
Cleanser?
doesn't that
Tell
say
them
it
that
all?
would
what
be
I'm trying to
friendly.
do.
Hold on,
I'm
hold on.
antagonizing
Let me just speak to Sinklenser. So you're saying, in spite of the fact that the majority of the Western world claims there is scientific evidence to prove we're on a spinning ball flying through a sky vacuum, it is understood and accepted by the majority of the Western world, they're not confident enough to present stuff to flat earthers. Is that what you're saying?
When there's a lot of really competent flat earthers in this channel right now, they will wait till most of them leave to act. I don't know. Yeah, exactly. They have the whole scientific community apparently on their side, but they don't feel confident enough to articulate it right now when they could, and actually get a
Very
really good
telling.
dialogue from it.
Well,
They've thrown them under the bus.
maybe
Science
they
doesn't
can.
prove things anymore. Remember?
Maybe.
Neil deGrasse Tyson's an idiot.
Go on, Eli.
Can Eli speak?
Go on, Eli.
Yeah.
Hey,
I noticed it, dude.
I want to bring up something that it was brought to my attention because I didn't know this. Remember chocolate just yesterday, like they Veritasium got, brought, like, for whatever reason it was in your feed. Well, it was in my feed too about Mars. And the first thing I paused on was they send helium balloons or implore helium balloons or deploy helium balloons on Mars?
Oh, we were just speaking about this.
you have to fill me
Not
in.
Like,
I
I mean,
listen,
the little bit of atmosphere there is would, I mean,
Well, atmosphere aware.
how would the pressure in the balloons work there? I don't
Where?
understand
Where,
how.
Eli?
Brian's all over this. Go ahead, Brian.
Thanks, Nathan. Work where, Eli?
Of course, I'm just pointing out the
Say it then.
absurdity
Say
of
it. Not of course.
Say it then.
Where?
how could you? Oh, in the vacuum of space. Well, yeah.
All
Well,
right.
I mean,
And how?
I don't know.
How does a gas pressure
Mars.
gradient form within a vacuum?
I don't know.
It doesn't.
They've
Well,
got you
I don't know.
arguing whether camera film will work on the moon, basically, again, aren't they?
Exactly. Gas lamps
Yeah.
in Narnia. Time travel through the wardrobe. Let's argue about that, right? How does the helium work when they've travelled through a second law of thermodynamics violation to a claim to be sky rock based on orbital distances that we've debunked? None of it's real. The distance they travel to get there isn't real. The orbital mechanics they claim that they're utilising in the travelling isn't real. None of it's real. My youngest daughter's figured out how to open doors. She's one. Can you hear her?
Oh no.
That's okay. That's going to be a problem from now on, just so you know.
Sometimes it's fun to
Well,
dip your toe into
I think it's
Narnia
maybe
just
because
to
we're.
make them
But
seem ridiculous.
I get all
Because we're
that.
going
Obviously,
24/7. I hear your point, Eli. What it is certain
Oh, I think-
people, right? In order for them to understand that these other things are impossible, they first sometimes need to get off of the very latest excitement that they are currently under, because they are under a spell. These people are literally entranced under, mass media, and they really are completely perplexed. So once you explain to them something simple like how helium cannot exist on Mars, but in the terms that the heliocentric model would give us in terms of if we could transport it there through the violation, right? Then maybe it sometimes undoes it a little bit further so that they could understand the violation in and of itself. I guess that's what Eli's saying, I believe. Am I wrong?
Well, what I would say is
No, you're right,
any
because it's
talking
that
about it
much
at
more
all, and they
exaggerated.
can change the
That's all I'm
mathematics
saying. Like,
at any point they want for any
well,
nonsense.
You ain't
You
Elijah.
have to
Oh,
prove a
don't
gas
need
pressure
four
gradient can form
people.
within a
Right,
vacuum.
clearly, if there's a massive gap and Brian starts talking, Eli, you've just got to accept that you weren't quick enough off the mark. But that doesn't mean you
Fair
talk, then
enough.
Arwin talks, then I have to interrupt. Just let him get to the end of his point, please.
Oh, you're gonna say it about me, are
Well,
you?
you died on top of
him.
2 other people, Arwin. What do you want?
I wanted to hear what Elijah
Let
was
Brian...
saying.
Oh, God. Let's try and get control again. Brian,
I
then
leave it like
Eli,
this
who
for
was
a
actually
moment.
asked the question to answer, but Brian's already started, so fine. You know, he's going to get his piece out. But then we'll let Eli, who's actually asked the question. Go ahead, Brian.
Okay, yeah, I didn't hear anything from Eli, so that's why I spoke. Now, the point I'm making is, why would you waste your time arguing about over a point whether a balloon can work on a planet, right? That's just an observed light in the sky, in a space vacuum, sky vacuum. Why go into all that nonsense when the only important question is, can a gas pressure gradient form within a vacuum? The answer is no. That means everything they are talking about, any argument got to do with it, is pointless, because no matter what you do, they can always change anything they want within their own model to prove themselves right. So if you prove something wrong today, they'll change the maths tomorrow. And it's all based within a place that we can't go to because it doesn't exist.
You follow that, Eli?
That's nice, but that's boring. We've been
I've
talking
got
about
the
that for
non-boring.
so
Hold
long,
on, Adam, we'll hear from you in a second.
as long as
Yeah.
the show has been running.
You're making the Anthony Riley
very
argument.
true that is. Huh?
You're appealing in the same way about 12 to 18 months ago Anthony Riley used to appeal to me. Yeah, but if we don't beg the question, there's no fight in it. That's essentially what you're saying.
No, this is what I'm doing. I'm exaggerating the circumstance because all I'm talking about is gas pressure, right? There's less of it, and then you have helium balloons. That's all I'm saying. Like, I mean, we know that helium balloons pop when they go high enough into the air here, and then there's none of that on Mars. That's all I'm saying. I mean, it's not a big deal.
Well,
It's
I
just
think
exaggerated.
Eli, can I just say a second?
about,
Like I just said a minute ago, I believe that the issue here is that sometimes we're not always talking to people that can change the model as they go and see fit. Sometimes, like I said, people are under a delusion. They're genuinely under a spell, and for them to be even able to understand that this place cannot exist, that it is Narnia, they first have to be taken off of the very thing they've now been hoodwinked by. So sometimes we're not talking to people that are very well versed. You know, we're talking sometimes to people, in fact, that are stuck in Narnia on Mars with the rover because they are literally indoctrinated by the media. And I feel like that's maybe what Elijah's saying, is that sometimes, it takes a jolt from one position of Narnia to get them all the way back to reality.
Sometimes
you
it's
get
about context, though, right? Like sometimes I'll ask random questions that don't have very much context to them until I give them the explanation. So, for example, the 2 days ago, I asked my coworker, "Hey, just out of the blue, hey, do you think a helicopter could work in literally no atmosphere?" And she said, "That's absolutely ridiculous." I said, "Oh, that's good. So then why is NASA sending a helicopter to Mars?" And she was like, "No, they're not." I said, "Yes, they are. That's their story." And that alone started the conversation about how a helicopter could not work in something that's got literally no atmosphere.
What?
But before if I had started off well, NASA this, NASA that, she would have already started with the excuses and the reasons. But because I just came at her and I said, "Hey, knowing what you know, does a helicopter work with no atmosphere?" And she said, "That's absolutely ridiculous. Thank you." And I leave him with that.
Okay, hold on, Owen.
No atmosphere?
Hold on.
None at all?
You're in the
Are you
queue.
sure?
You're in the queue. So we've got 10th man who I've had to mute because I could hear him rustling. But we'll go with Adam, who's got a presentation. Then 10th man. Then Arwin. Adam.
Okay. So just to address Eli's point, if you want the numbers, there's, if you can see the screen, so the numbers are there. Look, you've got a 38 over 1/800 reduction percentage in terms of weight, as it would be on Mars. You've got the statement here, and these are all from, I couldn't find a scientific site because this isn't pseudoscience, so I've gone to NASA. You've got a composition of 95% carbon dioxide and less than 1% oxygen, which is useful. But then, of course, the really important number, I love this. At ground level, the Martian atmosphere has a pressure of 6.58 millibars or 0.95 psi compared to 14. So that's kind of the key thing when you're talking about helium balloons or helicopters. This is what the concentration difference you've got to generate your thrust, taking into account that you will have reduced weight, but it's still nonsensical. Look,
nonsensical because
you've got no air to generate.
Because you can't.
No, it's not
what he's asking.
Go on, Brian.
I'm just saying that's not what Nathan is asking. Nonsensical because.
Well, it's nonsensical because obviously it exists in a place, but if we're gonna, that doesn't exist. But if we're gonna go to the level that Eli was asking and Crack was saying people want addressing, then these would be this particularly here. This bit is the important bit, isn't it? 0.095 compared to 14, where.
No. Stop. We're going to 10th man next. Whoever's interrupting. Whoever's interrupting. No, that's not the important thing. The important thing is, without the container, there can be no pressure. So saying, well, on Mars, who's interrupting from G+? From Mars, there's this slightly different gas pressure. What the hell's it pressing on again? Oh, it's in a vacuum. No. It's not occurring in the way described in this literature. Because you can't have gas pressure without a container. And it's asserted that between us and Mars, in this model, there's gas pressure that we're breathing, and then a craft has traversed something that's not contained, our gas pressure, into a sky vacuum, and then entered an area that also is uncontained for it to enter it, without any containment and apparent gas pressure. The whole thing stands in direct violation of the second law of thermodynamics, which is where Brian started when he criticised, sorry Eli, your necessity to beg the question of a sky vacuum for the travel to take place in, to then justify how their gas pressure they're claiming, which they could arbitrarily assign as anything they like, somehow doesn't work with helium. It's like, no, you can't have this scenario at all because it's describing gas pressure without containment existing in a vacuum. So the whole thing's preposterous. Now, 10th man, who's been waiting in the wings for ages. Go ahead.
Yeah, I was
Can
gonna
I add
I'm
like
glad
2
Adam
words before
Go
it's done?
first, Eli. Yeah, go first, Eli. That's what I
If 10th
said.
allows.
Right, Crack Villain. If you take over my show once more, I will boot you out. You are not the host. Shut up. Also, can you back off your mic? Can I hear you blarting out and telling people who's going to go next? Who do you think you are? Know your place. I'll tell the person who's going next when to speak. 10th man, go ahead.
Yeah, I'm glad Adam brought that up because I was really liking what Brian said. All they will do is just change the numbers to prove why a helium balloon works on Mars once that is brought up against them, because they just keep changing and calculating. So yeah, it is arguing within the begging the question. At the same time, kudos to Chocolate for doing it in the right context. I'm done.
Right, Crack
Can I
Villain,
just
go.
add one little thing?
Was it you
PV
interrupting
equals
Anthony?
NRT.
If so,
We need to
hold
do a
on,
bit of
Anthony.
math there to support our position.
Anthony, was it you clicking away interrupting me? If so, then go ahead. If not, I want Crack Villain to actually get his time to talk because he does have something to add. Was it you trying to get a word in while I was talking a minute ago?
It was. I was just trying to say PV equals NRT always needs a mention because they calculate the volume into existence. Worth
Correct,
mentioning it always because they love a bit of maths, don't they? So use the maths against them.
Yeah, at the Kármán line. If you want to know how they get the volume, that's what they'll arbitrarily assign as the amount that they're going to be using at the Kármán line. Go ahead, Crack Villain. My apologies for telling you off, but I've got to retain control here. Sorry.
Yeah, no, that's cool. I wasn't trying to run the show, buddy. I promise you that. I just Eli spoke at the same time as me, and he'd been rumpus a couple of times, so I thought, no, all right, go ahead of me, mate. Yeah, that's all it was. But yeah, no, I was just simply saying what you said was perfect because again, I feel like that explained the point that Eli was trying to say as well, right? Because like you said, it's making the circumstances even greater, almost, right? So okay, you want to violate the second law of thermodynamics to go out to Narnia and then also violate the second law of thermodynamics in Narnia. But sometimes people can't understand how, because what it is, they have these ideals here, these false ideals, obviously, okay, with gravity, all this bullshit, right? But the thing is that it's quite easy for them to slip on that and really get stuck in their brain on it. So when you say, okay, well, look at the differences with Mars. How does that apply to keeping an atmosphere the same way it does here next to a vacuum? Are we looking at yeah.
Yeah, perfect.
I'm still
Exactly,
waiting,
that's
by
what
the
we're
way.
saying. But Eli, go ahead. Feel free. Give your two penny worth.
Well, I wanted to attempt to one up you by saying Mars isn't a planet. That's all I wanted to say.
Yeah,
I'd like to say something after Anthony or an hour.
Go ahead, Brian.
Well, I can get in the queue if you want, Nathan. It's okay. Just to have.
I don't think there is one now, other than Arwin. Arwin's waiting and has been for ages. But
I wasn't going to say anything, Brian. You should have went when he gave you the mic.
Arwin,
well, I'm going out then.
Did you want to add something, Arwin? I'm waiting forever. Ask him again. He's probably gone for a cup of tea.
Me? I just got back.
Did you want to add something? Give me
To
a second.
what?
Did you want to add something in this regard?
To what argument exactly?
Obviously not. He's not been here, has he? So let's go back to Brian.
I got distracted by a very silly article.
I'll just add I posted. The point I was making was the support if you wanted to argue within their little paradigm, giving them and then proving within it. But I just posted a drone in a vacuum chamber for you guys in Master B if you want to.
Oh, right. Concerning the helicopter on Mars idea. You mean that?
Yeah.
Right. Okay. I got a comment to that, and that is, are they sure the atmosphere is really that thick, or were they just simply mistaken? They seem to have been mistaken about the moon 30 years after date, right? So maybe they got some of that atmosphere a little wrong. Maybe the surface of Mars has actually, for some reason, I don't know, solar or whatever, produced some extra gas. So maybe the atmosphere is just a little thicker. Maybe it works now.
And you know what they said? You know how they got that to work? Just rotate the blades a little faster. Just rotate them a little faster.
Can I go now?
You would have to rotate it at least 100 times faster because of the air pressure differential between normal Earth atmospherics.
But you know how we demonstrate that on Earth? We remove the air, and then how do we demonstrate or how do we demonstrate that what we're doing is simulating the less gravity of Mars? We attach a string to the helicopter and lift it. Yeah. Check out Veritasium's video, the Mars helicopter video from Veritasium. Go ahead.
So is that rope hanging off like an orbiting satellite or something?
I think it's got something to do with spiders.
Or is it strings from the special effects department that they forgot to erase? Which strings are those?
I think it was like spiders' webs.
Oh, man.
But serious? The string? Really?
Do I make things up? Go look it up. Veritasium, Mars helicopter. Came out a year ago. Go ahead.
If we assume that Mars is capable of maintaining atmosphere in a sky vacuum, then the gravitational attraction of this rope is analogous to spiders' webs. That's what I'm trying to say. I thought that was pretty clear.
Well, maybe if you make the helicopter wings of spider silk, could work.
Exactly. You
Wait a
understand.
minute.
We're all clear. Excellent.
When can I talk, Nathan?
How is the helicopter thing less ridiculous than a balloon in a vacuum?
It isn't. It's the whole thing's preposterous. Go ahead, Brian.
Thank you, Nathan.
No, I think that was
The reason
flat
I
Earth
asked
solar.
the question, how does a gas pressure gradient form within a vacuum, means that I not only am I detailing that we have a gas pressure gradient, but to form it needs gas pressure. So people have to get to the point, right? This is with new people. Just ask them that. How does a gas pressure gradient form within a vacuum? And well, you have to have gas pressure first. So to get gas pressure, you need a container. Just tell them then about PV equals nRT. Send them off first. Find out how a gas pressure gradient forms within a vacuum. Don't talk to them about Mars or any of the rest of it. Right?
You all understand?
What surface is on Mars?
You all understand the genius of the paradoxical nature of Brian's question. Let's get that clear before I round this show out. Then everyone understand that how the question is phrased leaves them with a paradox. Do we all understand that?
What?
Yeah, I get it.
You've got a container that's devoid of anything, classified as a vacuum by whatever scale they like, and then you introduce gas to it. What do you no longer have?
Well, it's no longer evacuated completely.
Boom!
Then.
Right there. So you've got a paradox, haven't you? You can't have gas pressure in existence in gradient or other form without containment. So if you've got this scenario being asked of, which is in essence, number one, a violation of natural law, the gas would fill the space. That's the point. To describe gas in a vacuum is to have it filling the space it's in. So you can't have it. As I say, violation of natural law. It's also simultaneously the description of their model. Right, Brian? So you're asking them, prove your model. Prove that we can have gas pressure gradients, which we absolutely do have, in a vacuum. And when you ask it in terms of how you could demonstrate it, it immediately becomes paradoxical. You can't do it. It's nonsense. But it's also the world they think they live in. Right, Brian?
Yes, Nathan.
I think Brian spun the argument perfectly.
Flat Earth Solar wanted to add something for the past 20 minutes, but he's been getting bowled over.
One more time. Say again, Eli.
That wasn't Eli. Flat Earth Solar.
Oh, my bad.
You're very quiet,
He's
though,
been
Josh.
trying to get in for the past
You do
10
sound
minutes,
like
man.
Eli.
I like it that way.
No.
Go ahead, Flat Earth Solar. Well, there we go there then.
Quantum Eraser was just talking.
Yeah, he just asked for.
Trying to get someone's attention, I believe. Is that right, Quantum Eraser?
Your attention, Nathan.
Can you hear Flat Earth Solar talking?
No.
Nope.
Flat Earth Solar, drop out
Nope.
and come back in again.
I'll do the same.
I didn't know I had to go out to the general.
Nah, it's just Discord. Selective audibility.
I'm talking about General QE.
I can have some quiet on Discord just for a second. Flat Earth Solar.
He can't hear you. He can't hear you, Flat Earth. Okay.
No, I can't. Neither can the panel. Weird.
Yeah,
sorry,
something's
mate.
going on in Discord, man.
I'm really sorry, Flat Earth Solar. We can't hear you. I can't even find you in the list, to be honest. Oh, there you are.
No stress.
Got you. I've got you. It's you. You were the person I must have put on mute earlier because background noise, and the mute button I used just meant that I couldn't hear you, obviously, and you can't adjust it. So I won't use that mute button again. Thanks. Good call. Righteous. We can hear you now. Go ahead.
You can hear me now?
Yes.
Okay, great. No, I was just basically saying that a vacuum, they're going to argue that the vacuum is a gradiated thing because they say it gets a higher vacuum. You know, we go down in that Tor level as we go towards that perfect vacuum. So they're going to argue that gradients occur in vacuums, but that's ludicrous in the first place. But what I was trying to say earlier was that it depends on who you're talking to, whether it's a normie or a globie. If it's a glober, you literally have to cut them off at the knees, cut out the argument, like Brian was saying. But whereas, like what Chocolate did to a normie was just plant the seed of could a helicopter work in a zero atmosphere. So I guess it depends on who you're talking to. If it's not a normal combatant person, then you don't necessarily have to cut them off right there because their brain won't even be able to comprehend how that does cut off the argument.
Yeah, it's the same with the parachutes. Parachutes don't work in a vacuum either.
Right, they go on air pressure differential, just like helicopter wings.
What I would say to any global believer, for people out there who are on the flat earth side, any global believer who wants to start asserting a gas pressure gradient is becoming a vacuum, this nonsense. Ask them how a gas pressure gradient, not only how can a gas pressure gradient form within a vacuum, but how can you have a gas pressure gradient without the sun?
Well, gas pressure gradient technically can form in a vacuum once it filled it up, right? There's another thing though about heliocentrism.
A consistent one, though.
The vacuum is
that we can live in, Arwen.
The vacuum is infinite, so a gradient could never form in an infinite volume.
Nicely, that's what Brian's saying.
Stop agreeing with me.
You need the sun. Yeah, but my point is that not only how can the gas pressure gradient form within a vacuum, how can you have a gas pressure gradient without the sun? Because when they go and look into that, they find out that all the things that cause the gradient are all caused directly come back to the sun. Gas cycles.
I wouldn't agree with that.
Okay, well, you can debate me on it if you want, but gas cycles caused by the sun. The temperature difference, which causes a difference in the densities caused by the sun, and convection caused by the sun.
Well, not exclusively, the sun definitely is the main factor into the dynamic nature of the gradient and the system of gas pressures, but there are still gradients without sun influence. Gradients just happen.
Where are they?
Yeah, well, no, Owen's right, but
you're
both right. Hold on. You're both saying the same thing. Hello. You're both saying the same thing. When Owen says the biggest differential, that's generation of entropy. The difference, that's entropy. So yes, you're both saying the same thing. And Owen's right. Yeah, I'm sure there are other influences on entropy. Absolutely. But the sun is the biggest entropy generator there is, without question.
My point is turn off the sun and the whole thing will equalize. Without the sun, there won't be a dynamic system.
I disagree with that, but there's no way to test it because you can't very manipulate the output of the sun.
Agreed. I would side with Brian. Arwen's perfectly legitimate in saying, well, how are you going to prove that? And you can't, so there's no point in arguing this. But yeah, you're both, again, equally right because you can't prove your points. How are you going to turn off the sun to see the effect? You're not going to, so who cares?
Yeah, but Arwen said put it in a tank. And Brian's are
in the shadows. A gradient will form.
Brian's argument was how do you get a gradient in a vacuum? And Arwen came back and said you put it in a tank.
No, that's not how I formulated that.
Okay, reformulate it.
I said, how do you make a gas pressure gradient in a vacuum? Well, you introduce the gas pressure, then it will spread out within the available volume, which cannot be infinite because then a gradient can never form. And then once it has settled, then it will.
No, it was after that. It was.
So I can't finish it. This is
no. It was after.
Yeah, but you do it. When's the last time that I was able to finish an explanation in the show without being rumpused by some panel member?
Oh my gosh, the chief rumpus
that's exactly my question. Oh my gosh, why?
Okay, fine. Talk about the sun not being there. Go to the point I was making, not the whole thing.
We'll have to go to your point. Okay.
No, you're the one who said without the sun, it would be available in a tank.
Yeah, no, Arwen made the point, right? Arwen made the point that you can have a gas pressure gradient within a tank. But I did say, and maybe it wasn't heard, I did say, yeah, but that's temperature. The point I'm making involving the sun is the sun causes a temperature difference. Temperature differences can cause gradient within a tank. But the whole point is you can't have a gas pressure gradient without an enclosed dynamic system that involves the sun. We don't know of any other way to have that.
The sun? The sun? What is the sun?
Oh,
I don't know.
Be a cause. But
Yeah.
if you
Arwen's got
mean
you
that
again.
all the
Yeah.
sunlight being absorbed at ground level, sure. You know?
Exactly, Arwen. Arwen's going to get you on this every
This
time.
is
He's not going to
interesting.
not utilise our own arguments to his own advantage, is he?
So I agree. I just agree more correctly.
Both right. Whatever.
I think your argument tanked.
No, it didn't. Arwen is
You
right.
need a tank for gas pressure.
Well, in a way, Arwen, you supported me when you said a container. Well, not in a way, you absolutely did support me, because I said you turn off the sun and the whole gas pressure would equalize within the container we're in. Whereas the same with the tank, you keep that at one equal temperature, and any gas inside will just be at an equal pressure. There'll be no pressure gradient.
I disagree with that notion. I don't think it will. I think relative density will absolutely set in. There is any
I
gas
have to agree that is true.
If there is any gas
gases.
in a tank, if there is any gas in a tank and it's kind of pressurized, right? Then some of that might be so pressurized that's actually liquid. Well, guess what? That liquid is always going to arrange itself as a gradient with the hole at the bottom.
But density is not pressure exclusively.
I never said it is.
And what if you?
But it
Yeah, but I
definitely
said,
what if you took
I
influences
that-
said the pressure
everything
would
that
equalize.
has a mass and it has a density is going to be influenced by it. And gas has a density too.
It does, but you can have different densities where they're having different temperature or different pressures, can't you? You can have an equal pressure but different densities.
Right. So look, you're saying that it has to have a sun influence or to be like that. I'm saying no, but it definitely contributes though. It does emphasize it even more. It does create that ground level extra little pressure that will make the gradient more emphasized, more noticeable. Without
it's
the
not-
sunlight hitting it, it would be not as gradiated. It would still be a gradient though.
Well, yeah, but would it be a pressure gradient is the question, not a density gradient. I'm talking pressure gradient.
I would not even
course it would.
know
The
where
more-
to begin testing that.
The more the
Well-
density increases, the more the collisions with the walls of the container increase.
Well, not exactly.
Did you have a
Pressure-
question? Sorry,
pressure
I had.
causes a
Sorry to interrupt.
movement.
Sorry to
Ask
interrupt.
Adam.
Sorry to interrupt. Flat Earth Solar, did you have a question you wanted to ask? I think you were trying to ask Arwen.
Yeah, thanks. If that tank, here locally on the Earth, we do experience that water would be down at the bottom. But their argument is always that, like, if you had it in the 0G plane or in Narnia, that gas or that liquid may be evenly dispersed in that container and not necessarily
but
with a downward.
That's actually, if you learn how to
collection
adopt
point.
that and make it into our argument, what they're actually doing with a 0G plane, let's remember, what they call a 0G plane is actually a plane falling out the sky. We're on 0G. They've got a plane falling out the sky. And what it's doing is it's removing the ability for the mass to create pressure because it's not able to press against anything anymore because it's all falling out the sky. So what you're actually proving by getting a plane falling out the sky is you're proving that you're removing the pressure of the mass because mass has magnitude. They prove that mass has got magnitude with that example.
Right. Well, the displacement just adds another force. The force besides relative density disequilibrium force. It adds it to the whole as the whole thing in a sealed system is basically accelerating in a direction. So it adds the other force, and then forces could be calculated to be neutralized. And if that's the case, then these weird neutral-like effects will happen with the apparent free float. But at the same time, the whole thing, everything in it, is actually moving in a direction.
Yeah, it's trying to return to equilibrium. So it's been forced out of equilibrium, it's been elevated up in an aeroplane, and then when falling back, all it's doing is it's in the process of attempting to return to equilibrium. Well, when it's in that state, it's not going to order, it's falling.
Right, and at the same time, the gases
Yes.
within such a falling plane are also being redistributed by the available forces, causing even things like helium balloons. Apparently, we figured this out recently. it causes it to stay kind of neutral as well, because the pressure in the sealed chamber is being rearranged by the acceleratory displacement.
Well,
Yes,
just on
I
what we
agree.
in our when we're
I
talking
agree
about
completely.
a couple of minutes ago.
But
After
just on the gradient side, you know, we were talking about that a gradient would occur inside of a vacuum, and I was saying potentially in that spacelessness, or you know, in Narnia, it would want to disperse more evenly than, say, collecting in a tank like it would under that pressure. But I guess it's the pressure that forces it into that liquid state. And once it was in a larger volume, it wouldn't be forced into that liquid state, and it would instantly evaporate due to the volume and the low pressure.
Right, there can be no pressure stability without a stable, limited volume for it to stabilize in.
But the whole gradient in a vacuum, that's an oxymoron.
True.
Arwen, if you take a canister and you put oxygen into it and keep it at room temperature, indoors room temperature, the oxygen will be all the same density, and there'll be an equal temperature in there. But if you add temperature, extra heat to the bottom of it, the same density will be within the tank of the matter that's in the tank, but there will be a pressure gradient, pressure gradient due to the differences in temperature.
Sure, locally, why not? As I said, the daylight from what comes from what we think is the sun hitting the earth and warming it up, sure, it emphasizes the gradient much more. But yeah, we can't really test it completely, taking it away to see what of the gradient is left, because then we wouldn't have any crops. So, and probably all freeze to death.
Indeed. So in conclusion, outer space is fake. If the sky was a vacuum, then the gas we breathe would fill the space. We'd never develop pressure in the first place. There'd be no pressure gradient. It's an oxymoron to say gas pressure gradient in a vacuum. If you've got a gas pressure gradient, then you're not in a vacuum. And the assertion that we have a vacuum as our sky is debunked by entropy. The gas, which expands in all directions, would fill the volume. And the volume, in the case of the heliocentric rhetoric, is space. Shocking, eh? Space is a space? Yeah. That's your volume, and gas would fill it, we'd all be dead. With that, I'm going to say a huge, massive, enormous thank you, first and foremost, to both Discord and G Plus panels for making today's after show possible. Of course, a massive thank you to all of you in either Nathan Oakley 1980 or Nathan Oakley premiering streams for hopefully smashing the super chat, liking, commenting, sharing, subscribing, and joining as a Nathan Oakley 1980 channel member. Also, below this video, there is a link to get £50 for swapping your UK electricity supplier to Octopus Energy. I've been Nathan Oakley, and I'll see you all in the next video.
What a day! What a lovely day!